What if the stones beneath our feet could whisper secrets of a forgotten world? Across the globe, there lie remnants of civilizations that challenge everything we think we know. Structures carved with precision that defy the tools of their time. Artifacts whose origins remain shrouded in mystery, and inscriptions that hint at knowledge lost to the ages. Some call them anomalies, others call them impossible. Yet they are real, and they persist, silent witnesses to enigmas that have baffled archaeologists for centuries. From labyrinthine underground tunnels hidden beneath deserts, to massive stone monuments aligned with cosmic patterns that no one fully understands, these sites raise questions that science and history still struggle to answer. Who built them? How did they achieve such feats? And why have their stories been erased from the pages of history? Tonight, we step beyond speculation and into the shadows of the past, where each discovery sparks awe and every mystery refuses closure. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the most bizarre, unexplained archaeological mysteries that continue to puzzle our world. The arid winds sweep across the northern coast of Peru, brushing over the sun-baked plains that stretch toward the distant Andes. Here, the desert seems endless, punctuated only by the occasional cluster of eroded hills and the faint traces of ancient canals, remnants of a civilization long buried beneath the sands. It is in this seemingly desolate landscape that one of the most extraordinary archaeological discoveries of the 20th century emerged. A tomb that would rewrite our understanding of the Moche, a culture that thrived more than 1,000 years ago. In 1987, archaeologists unearthed the burial site of the Lord of Sipán, a Moche ruler whose resting place lay undisturbed for centuries. The tomb was astonishing in its richness: gold and silver ornaments, intricate ceremonial headdresses, jewelry shaped like animals, and delicate mosaics, all preserved with an almost impossible clarity. It was not just the wealth, but the meticulous placement of each object that captured the world's imagination. The Lord of Sipán had been buried with attendants, sacrificial victims, and an array of offerings that spoke of ritual, power, and a complex social hierarchy. He was not merely a man. He was a symbol, a conduit to the divine in the eyes of his people. Yet even as we marvel at the craftsmanship and the wealth of the tomb, questions abound. The Moche left no written records, no books, no scrolls, nothing that could explain their intentions. How did they achieve such technological mastery in metalwork and ceramics without the tools we assume are necessary? How did they construct the elaborate tombs that align with cosmic or symbolic precision? And what compelled them to accompany their ruler with human attendants in death, a practice that suggests beliefs both intimate and chilling, yet ultimately opaque to us? Some scholars argue that the Lord of Sipán's burial reflects a purely religious or ceremonial significance, a testament to the Moche's devotion to ancestor worship and ritualized power. Others suggest that there may have been more practical or political motives, hinting at a society where hierarchy and authority were enforced not only in life but in death. And then there are theories that venture into the more speculative. Could the objects and the spatial arrangements of the tomb hold symbolic knowledge now lost, or even encode astronomical or calendrical insights that we have yet to decipher? As the excavation continued, each layer of earth removed seemed to raise new mysteries. The tomb's construction revealed careful engineering, chambers built to preserve the body and the treasures, designs that had clearly been intended to endure through time. And yet, despite centuries of burial, the organic materials, textiles, feathers, and even the remains of ceremonial foods remained remarkably intact. How was this possible in the harsh desert climate? Was it a stroke of luck, or a deliberate understanding of preservation long before modern science could explain it? Even the skeletal remains themselves provoke fascination. Studies of the Lord of Sipán's bones suggest a man who had suffered the burdens of leadership, injuries that healed, signs of chronic stress, evidence of a life lived under constant physical and ceremonial demands. But these same studies also hint at aspects of his existence that remain enigmatic: dietary anomalies, ritualistic modifications, and symbolic decorations carved into the bones of those buried alongside him. Every detail seems to whisper a story we cannot fully comprehend, a narrative half-told, lingering just beyond reach. In the broader landscape of Moche civilization, Sipán is both typical and extraordinary. The Moche built vast ceremonial centers along the northern coast, with towering adobe pyramids, intricate murals depicting warfare, sacrifice, and daily life, and evidence of advanced hydraulic engineering. Yet the discovery of the Lord of Sipán's tomb revealed a scale of wealth and craftsmanship previously unseen. It suggests a society with deep stratification, remarkable artistic skill, and ritual practices that were both codified and mysterious. How many other tombs lie hidden beneath the desert sands, holding secrets that could challenge our understanding of pre-Columbian history? And there are puzzles that defy conventional explanation. The arrangement of the Lord's burial, the symbolic placement of objects, and the repeated motifs in Moche art raise questions about their cosmology and worldview. Did the Moche possess esoteric knowledge lost to time? Were these symbols purely ceremonial, or did they serve as codes for astronomical, agricultural, or even political information? Archaeologists have proposed theories, yet no definitive answer exists. Each artifact, each ornate piece of gold, seems to invite more questions than it resolves. Standing at the site today, one can feel the weight of centuries pressing down through the desert sands. The Lord of Sipán is no longer physically present, yet his tomb speaks in silence of power, devotion, and the enigma of a people whose stories were not written in letters but etched in metal, clay, and stone. His burial continues to draw scholars, tourists, and dreamers alike, all seeking to grasp a fragment of a world that remains tantalizingly out of reach. As the sun sets over the desert plains, casting long shadows across the ruins, one cannot help but wonder, what other truths lie beneath the sand? How many more rulers, craftsmen, and witnesses of the Moche remain hidden, waiting for the careful hand of discovery? The Lord of Sipán was found, yet the story is far from complete, and the mysteries of his civilization endure, quietly defying explanation. As we leave the arid plains of Peru behind, we journey thousands of miles north to another land where time itself seems to have slowed, a land of endless deserts and the eternal flow of the Nile. In the ancient city of Abydos, one of Egypt's most sacred sites, lies a structure unlike any other, quietly defying the expectations of archaeologists and historians alike. Hidden behind the temples and monuments dedicated to pharaohs long gone, the Osireion presents a vision of the past that is both awe-inspiring and profoundly mysterious. Approaching the Osireion, one is immediately struck by the contrast it presents. Unlike the towering pylons and open courtyards of the nearby temple of Seti I, this structure lies partially submerged, its entrance dipping below the ground as though deliberately concealed. Massive stone blocks, meticulously cut and carefully placed, form a labyrinthine hall with a central island surrounded by water channels. The air is cool and still, carrying a faint echo of footsteps from centuries ago. Here, in this subterranean chamber, the scale and precision of construction are unmistakable, and yet they raise questions that have yet to be answered. The Osireion is traditionally associated with Osiris, the Egyptian god of the afterlife, and scholars suggest that it served as a symbolic tomb, a place of ritual renewal, or a site for ceremonial reenactments of the god's death and resurrection. but its design does not conform neatly to the patterns of other known Egyptian tombs or temples. The massive stones, some weighing tens of tons, seem almost alien in their precision and arrangement. The subterranean layout, with water channels surrounding a central platform, hints at purposes that go beyond the purely ceremonial, a deliberate attempt to mirror the mythical waters of the underworld, or perhaps to align with celestial phenomena in ways we do not yet understand. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials in and around the site suggests that the Osireion may predate the Temple of Seti I by centuries, raising the tantalizing possibility that it is older than conventional history allows. How could such a complex have been constructed with the technology of the time? Did the builders possess knowledge lost to us today, or were they guided by techniques and traditions that have vanished from the archaeological record? And if the structure is indeed older, what does it say about the origins of Egyptian civilization and the continuity of its religious practices? The stones themselves tell a story of remarkable engineering. Many blocks bear inscriptions and markings whose meanings are still debated. Their size and weight suggest sophisticated techniques for quarrying, transport, and placement, techniques that appear far beyond what we would expect from an ancient workforce. Was this the work of generations, carefully planned over decades, or of a single vision realized with astonishing precision? And what motivated the construction of a subterranean hall that seems deliberately hidden, as though meant to be discovered only by those who knew where to look? Beyond the stones, the Osireion's water channels invite further speculation. Some scholars suggest that they symbolically represent the primeval waters of creation, central to Egyptian cosmology, while others note the possibility that they could have served practical purposes, for ritual purification, ceremonial flooding, or even acoustical amplification of chants and prayers. Yet, no definitive explanation accounts for the exact dimensions, proportions, and orientation of the water channels. Could there be a hidden mathematical or astronomical significance encoded within the layout? An alignment with stars, solstices, or other celestial markers that we have yet to decipher? Even the surrounding context of the site deepens the mystery. Abydos was a city of pilgrimage and royal commemoration, home to a series of temples dedicated to gods and kings alike. Yet the Osireion stands apart, both physically and conceptually. Its scale dwarfs expectations for a symbolic tomb, yet its subterranean positioning makes it difficult to access and study. Why did the builders invest such extraordinary effort into a structure so deliberately concealed? And what messages were intended for those who entered its shadowed halls? Messages that we can only guess at today. Speculation abounds, naturally. Some propose that the Osireion may have been a repository of lost knowledge, a cryptic monument built to preserve rituals, teachings, or astronomical observations for future generations. Others have suggested that its design reflects an understanding of natural forces, water, gravity, acoustics, that ancient Egyptians exploited in ways modern science is only beginning to explore. Fringe theories posit even more provocative ideas, that the site preserves traces of a civilization predating the known dynastic eras, or that it encodes messages from a culture whose origins remain forever hidden beneath the sands. And while these theories cannot be confirmed, the questions they raise underscore the profound enigma of the Osireion itself. Walking through the Osireion today, one is struck by the sense of stillness, the weight of history pressing down from massive stone ceilings, the faint scent of earth and water lingering in the air. Every carved surface, every submerged channel, every monumental block seems imbued with intention, yet the intentions remain obscured by time. It is a place where human ambition, religious devotion, and perhaps knowledge beyond our comprehension intersect, a place that invites reflection on the limits of our understanding. And yet, despite decades of study, the Osireion refuses to surrender its secrets fully. Archaeologists continue to debate its age, its purpose, and the methods of its construction. Each answer uncovered seems to generate new questions. What knowledge guided the hands that built this subterranean hall? How much of ancient Egyptian history remains hidden beneath layers of earth and myth? And what other monuments, lost or forgotten, lie buried nearby, waiting for discovery? As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert sands of Abydos, the Osireion emerges as both a marvel and a mystery, a silent witness to a civilization whose ingenuity and vision remain only partially understood. In its shadowed corridors, surrounded by water and stone, one is left with a profound sense of awe and a quiet reminder that the past is far more enigmatic than we often realize. Perhaps, somewhere beneath the sands, more secrets await those who are willing to look and to question everything we think we know about the ancient world. As the sun sets over the rugged landscapes of Sardinia, the island's rolling hills and jagged cliffs seem to guard secrets buried deep beneath the earth. In the northern reaches of this Mediterranean isle lies a site that has puzzled archaeologists for decades, a necropolis carved into the rocky terrain, a labyrinth of tombs and chambers that whispers of a civilization both ancient and enigmatic. This is Anghelu Ruju, a place where the living and the dead converge and where the mysteries of prehistory linger, undisturbed by time. Walking through the site today, one is immediately struck by the sheer scale and intricacy of the necropolis. Over 30 burial chambers have been identified, each carved directly into the limestone bedrock, forming a network of corridors, niches, and recesses. The chambers are irregular yet deliberate, their construction hinting at a society with knowledge of stonework and funerary practices far beyond what we might expect for the Neolithic period. Some walls bear faint carvings. Others contain remnants of ochre or other pigments, suggesting ritualistic significance. And though centuries of erosion have softened the edges, the layout still conveys a careful, intentional design. Excavations reveal a fascinating and perplexing tableau. The tombs of Anghelu Ruju were reused across generations, a palimpsest of human history preserved in stone. Human remains, fragmented yet identifiable, lie intermingled with pottery, tools, ornaments, and mysterious objects that defy easy classification. Among the finds are intricately decorated ceramics, bronze implements, and beads crafted from materials sourced from distant regions. These artifacts hint at trade networks and cultural exchanges that seem astonishing for a society often considered simple or isolated. What knowledge, what beliefs, guided the selection of grave goods and the placement of bodies? And why were some chambers filled with multiple generations, while others remained solitary, almost sanctified in their isolation? The age of the necropolis adds to its enigma. Radiocarbon dating suggests that the site was in use from as early as 3,500 BCE, yet some elements appear to have been modified or added in subsequent centuries. How did these prehistoric builders conceive of such a space, and what prompted them to invest so much effort in subterranean tombs rather than surface monuments? The scale and sophistication of the stonework raise tantalizing questions. Did these early Sardinians possess lost techniques, passed down orally or through long-forgotten traditions? Could their knowledge of stone, of geometry, or of symbolic representation exceed what conventional archaeology assumes? One of the most perplexing features of Anghelu Ruju is the way in which the necropolis seems to blend practical function with profound symbolism. Many chambers are narrow, constraining, almost claustrophobic, yet they contain objects that suggest ceremonial or ritual intent. The positioning of the bodies, the selection of grave goods, and the repeated use of certain chambers hint at a culture deeply concerned with ancestry, cosmology, and the cycle of life and death. But the exact meanings remain frustratingly elusive. Was this a place of communal memory, a sacred archive of the living, or a bridge to some spiritual understanding lost to us now? Scholars have proposed various interpretations. Some suggest that the necropolis reflects the evolution of funerary practices among the pre-neurologic populations of Sardinia, offering insight into social hierarchies and ritual customs. Others have focused on the architectural anomalies. Some chambers appear to align with celestial events, or with particular topographical features, hinting at an astronomical or spiritual function. Fringe theories, cautiously whispered in academic circles, speculate that the necropolis could encode knowledge about migration patterns, ritual calendars, or even esoteric cosmology, an early attempt to link the earthly and the divine in ways we are only beginning to understand. The artifacts themselves are no less confounding. Among the pottery and beads are objects that defy easy categorization, shapes and symbols that do not appear elsewhere in contemporary Sardinian contexts, suggesting either local innovation or external influence. Were these symbols purely decorative, or did they carry encoded information, messages of lineage, allegiance, or spiritual significance? The distribution of grave goods also puzzles researchers. Some chambers overflow with carefully arranged offerings, while others remain stark, containing only a single individual. What determined this differentiation? Social status, ritual role, or perhaps something more mysterious? Equally intriguing is the necropolis's relationship with the surrounding landscape. Anghelu Ruju is nestled in a region rich with natural features, hills, caves, and water sources that may have held ritual or symbolic importance for its builders. Was the choice of location deliberate, guided by an understanding of sacred geography that modern observers struggle to grasp? Did these early Sardinians see in the hills and valleys a reflection of the cosmos, embedding their cosmology directly into the terrain? Walking among the tombs today, the visitor cannot escape a sense of reverence and unease. The necropolis conveys both human ingenuity and a desire to reach beyond the material world. Each chamber, each artifact, each carefully placed stone is a fragment of a story that refuses to be fully told. It is a silent narrative, one that invites speculation but resists closure, a reminder that even in the earliest chapters of human history, there were civilizations capable of profound thought, symbolism, and artistry. And yet, for all that we have uncovered, the mystery of Anghelu Ruju remains incomplete. Questions linger like shadows along the corridors. What inspired the construction of such a complex and enduring necropolis? How much of their knowledge, belief, and ritual remains encoded in ways we have not yet deciphered? And what other sites, hidden beneath Sardinia's rugged terrain, might further illuminate the practices of a people whose story is only partially told? As the evening light fades, casting long, cool shadows across the rocky chambers, the necropolis stands as a quiet enigma, a monument not only to the dead, but to human curiosity, ingenuity, and the enduring desire to connect with what lies beyond life. It is a place that resists final explanation, leaving us to wonder, what secrets remain buried beneath the stones, waiting for patient eyes and careful hands to uncover them? From the windswept hills and rocky tombs of Sardinia, we travel westward across continents and oceans to the sun-scorched deserts of the American Southwest, where the earth itself seems to have been transformed into a canvas of mystery. In the vast expanse near Blythe, California, a series of enormous figures etched into the desert floor silently defy explanation, their shapes visible only from above. These are the Blythe Intaglios, ancient geoglyphs that have intrigued explorers, archaeologists, and skyward observers for decades. Approaching the site on foot, one is struck by the scale of these works. The figures stretch tens, even hundreds of meters across the arid land, carved with painstaking precision into the desert surface. Anthropomorphic figures tower with outstretched limbs, some depicted with elaborate headdresses or distinctive features, while other geoglyphs appear to represent animals, mammoths, serpents, and birds. Despite their monumental size, the intent behind these creations remains elusive. How could a society without aerial perspective achieve such accurate proportions? And why invest so much effort in designs that could only be fully appreciated from the sky, a vantage point impossible for the creators to occupy? Archaeologists have traced the Blythe Intaglios to the Patayan culture, which thrived along the lower Colorado River Valley over a millennium ago. Carbon dating and regional analysis suggest that these figures may have been created anywhere from 450 to over 1,000 years ago. Yet even with this context, the purpose of the geoglyphs remains an enigma. Were they ceremonial, guiding ritual processions across the desert? Did they mark sacred spaces or serve as territorial symbols? Some researchers propose astronomical alignments, speculating that certain figures could relate to solstices, star patterns, or seasonal cycles. But the evidence remains tantalizingly incomplete. The creation of the Intaglios itself is a marvel. The figures were formed by scraping away the desert's dark surface layer to reveal the lighter soil beneath, a technique requiring careful planning and significant labor. Over time, wind and rain have worn the edges, yet the designs persist, etched into the earth like echoes of a forgotten story. This raises a further question. Why did the creators choose such an impermanent medium? Unlike stone or ceramics, the desert floor is vulnerable to erosion. Did they intend the figures to last for centuries, or were they meant to be renewed periodically as part of an ongoing ritual practice? Speculation about the meaning of the Blythe Intaglios ranges from the culturally grounded to the more mysterious. Some suggest that the figures represent deities or mythic beings, or that they functioned as ceremonial paths for spiritual journeys. Others note the striking similarity of certain figures to motifs found in other ancient cultures, prompting questions about cross-cultural exchange or shared archetypal imagery. Fringe theories have even proposed connections to lost civilizations or extraterrestrial contact, largely based on the necessity of viewing the designs from above, but the geoglyphs themselves provide no confirmation, allowing only wonder and hypothesis. The environment of the Blythe region adds to the sense of mystery. The desert is harsh and unforgiving, with scorching summers and cold winters. Yet these geoglyphs persist, frozen in the landscape. Surrounding the figures are small artifacts, stone tools, pottery fragments, and remnants of hearths that hint at the daily lives of the people who inhabited the region. But the scale and ambition of the Intaglios suggest that they were more than mere decoration. They were statements, expressions of identity, or belief on a monumental scale. What inspired such a vision? And what rituals or knowledge guided its execution? Viewing the Intaglios from the air, or even from a high vantage point, is a revelation. The proportions are precise, the figures carefully spaced, some aligned along axes that suggest observation of the sun or stars. Yet despite decades of study, no comprehensive explanation has emerged. How did the creators ensure such geometric accuracy? Did they employ a system of stakes and lines, oral tradition, or a form of measurement now lost to us? The more we examine the figures, the more they seem to challenge our assumptions about ancient capabilities and ingenuity. Equally compelling are the questions left by what we cannot see. Unlike the Moche tombs of Sipán, the Osireion of Abydos, or the necropolis of Anghelu Ruju, the Blythe Intaglios are not hidden beneath layers of earth. They are open, exposed, yet their meaning remains shrouded. What cultural memory do they preserve? What stories were intended for those who walked among them? And what knowledge may have been encoded in the figure's size, shape, or orientation? Could they have served as a bridge between the living and the spiritual world, a form of communication that transcends the passage of centuries? As the afternoon light drapes across the desert, casting long shadows that stretch across the figures, The Intaglios evoke a profound sense of human ambition and wonder. They are at once monumental and intimate, public and secret, rooted in the earth yet pointing toward the heavens. Each line and curve invites speculation, but refuses definitive interpretation, leaving viewers and researchers alike suspended between understanding and awe. And so, the mystery of the Blythe Intaglios endures. Scholars continue to debate their age, their creators, and their purpose. Modern technology, from aerial photography to satellite imaging, has revealed even more figures previously hidden, yet each discovery only deepens the questions. How much remains undiscovered in this vast desert expanse? What cultural knowledge, what spiritual insights lie encrypted in these immense patterns? And what does it mean that a society could conceive of such monumental works, visible only from a perspective they could not inhabit, and yet execute them with precision and intention? As the sun dips below the horizon, bathing the desert in amber and shadow, the Blythe Intaglios remain a silent testament to ingenuity, ritual, and mystery. They beckon us to look closer, to question our assumptions about the past, and to imagine the world as seen through the eyes of those who walked the desert long ago. What secrets lie hidden in plain sight, waiting for patient observers to uncover them? The answer, like the figures themselves, remains etched in the sands of time, unsolved, yet undeniably compelling. From the windswept desert floor of California, where the Blythe Intaglios stretch silently across the land, we return once more to the sands of Egypt, a civilization whose monuments and burial sites continue to captivate the imagination. Among the many tombs unearthed along the Nile, one stands apart, shimmering in legend and mystery, the so-called Tomb of the Silver Pharaoh, a burial site whose contents, symbolism, and unusual materials have intrigued scholars and treasure hunters alike. Located in the Valley of the Kings, the tomb is remarkable not only for its craftsmanship, but also for the way it challenges expectations of Egyptian burial practices. Unlike the golden splendor of Tutankhamun, this pharaoh's final resting place is defined by an extraordinary emphasis on silver, a metal far rarer in ancient Egypt than gold, yet lavishly employed throughout the burial assemblage. Silver coffins, intricate jewelry, and ceremonial artifacts adorn the tomb, catching the faintest light in a way that seems almost ethereal, as if the pharaoh's presence is preserved in a ghostly glow. The effect is subtle, haunting, and unforgettable, creating an atmosphere of both awe and unease. Excavations reveal an intricate network of chambers, each meticulously planned and purposefully constructed. Reliefs on the walls depict scenes of daily life, divine rituals, and the journey to the afterlife, yet many of the images are unusual, variations on common iconography that do not appear in other tombs from the same period. These differences have led scholars to ponder whether the silver emphasis was purely decorative, or whether it had symbolic or even mystical significance. Was silver chosen for its connection to the moon, reflecting cycles of life, death, and rebirth? Or did it represent something more esoteric, a material imbued with protective properties and spiritual resonance, meant to guide the pharaoh safely into eternity? The tomb's contents suggest a ruler who was both powerful and enigmatic. In addition to the silver artifacts, archaeologists have uncovered an array of ceremonial objects, some of which appear inexplicable by conventional understanding. Tools whose function is unclear, jewelry with unusual inscriptions, and containers filled with substances that modern science cannot yet fully identify. The sheer variety and sophistication of these items raise fundamental questions about the pharaoh's reign, his resources, and the beliefs that governed his preparation for the afterlife. Even the tomb's architecture is unusual. Unlike other royal burials, the chambers are arranged in a way that suggests careful attention to acoustics and spatial perception. Narrow corridors open into expansive halls, and water channels or drainage systems hint at an awareness of environmental forces. perhaps designed to preserve the remains and treasures for centuries. Yet certain aspects of the design remain puzzling. Some chambers seem almost deliberately hidden, accessible only through concealed passages or openings, raising the question: were these hidden spaces intended for protective purposes, to deter tomb robbers, or to preserve knowledge meant only for the most initiated? Mainstream interpretations suggest that the tomb of the Silver Pharaoh represents a unique funerary innovation, reflecting religious beliefs and personal wealth. Yet even these explanations cannot fully account for the unusual choice of silver, the enigmatic inscriptions, or the irregularities in tomb layout. Scholars continue to debate whether the artifacts and architecture were designed solely for ritualistic purposes, or if they encode knowledge now lost to history. Could the tomb's peculiarities indicate an experimentation with spiritual or alchemical principles, a precursor to later mystical traditions? Or was it the expression of a pharaoh's personal vision, a deliberate departure from tradition meant to convey authority, individuality, or even secrecy? The more we examine the silver artifacts, the more they seem to raise questions rather than answer them. Some objects bear symbols that appear nowhere else in the Egyptian corpus. Others resemble tools or instruments whose function is still debated. Could these be ceremonial instruments, intended to channel energy or convey messages to the afterlife? Or were they markers of social and religious status, objects whose meanings were understood in a context that has since disappeared? Each item seems to echo a lost language, a code whose meaning is tantalizingly beyond reach. Even the human remains offer enigmas. Analysis indicates that the pharaoh's diet, health, and lineage correspond in some ways to expectations for a ruler of his era, yet other details are unusual. Certain skeletal features suggest a life shaped by both privilege and intense ceremonial duty, while traces of substances on the remains hint at ritual preparation practices that remain poorly understood. Were these preparations purely symbolic, or did they serve practical, perhaps even technological purposes designed to preserve or protect the body? The tomb also raises broader questions about Egypt's ancient networks and resources. Silver was far rarer than gold in the Nile Valley, often imported from distant lands. How did the pharaohs secure such quantities of the metal? Did this reflect a far-reaching trade network, an alliance with other regions, or a resource so unique that it elevated the pharaoh's status in life and death? And if so, what does this reveal about the political, economic, and spiritual priorities of the time? Walking through the tomb of the Silver Pharaoh today, one senses a deliberate interplay of material, space, and symbolism. The air feels charged, as though the past is present in the quiet glow of silver and the shadows of stone corridors. Every artifact, every carved wall, every subtle irregularity invites speculation, yet none provide definitive answers. The tomb is at once a testament to human ingenuity and a reminder of the limits of our understanding, a space that bridges the historical, the mystical, and the unexplained. And yet, for all that has been uncovered, mysteries remain. Why silver rather than gold as the primary medium of royal splendor? What knowledge, spiritual or otherwise, guided the tomb's design and its contents? How much of this pharaoh's story, his beliefs, ambitions, and secrets, remains encoded in the silver, waiting for careful observation and interpretation? The tomb of the Silver Pharaoh, like so many other enigmas we have explored, from the Blythe Intaglios to Anghelu Ruju, from Sipán to the Osireion, stands as a silent challenge to historians, archaeologists, and dreamers alike. How far can we reach into the past, and how much will always remain just out of grasp? As the sun dips low over the Valley of the Kings, casting elongated shadows across the stone corridors, the tomb's silver gleams faintly in the fading light, a quiet reminder of human ambition, ritual, and the enduring allure of the unknown. What remains hidden, and what secrets might still emerge from these ancient chambers? The answers, like the silver itself, shimmer just beyond our reach. From the glittering silver of the Pharaoh's tomb, we move eastward across continents and millennia to a civilization whose sophistication continues to astonish and perplex the modern world: the Indus Valley Civilization. Spanning parts of modern-day Pakistan and northwest India, this Bronze Age society thrived along the life-giving waters of the Indus River over 4,000 years ago. Its cities, Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, Dholavira, reveal a level of urban planning, architecture, and civic organization that seems almost modern, yet one of its greatest mysteries lies not in its bricks and streets, but in the symbols and signs left behind, the Indus Valley script. Approaching the artifacts, one immediately notices their intricacy. Tiny seals carved from steatite, pottery fragments etched with repeating symbols, and inscriptions on tablets all present a script that is at once orderly and enigmatic. The signs appear in patterns, often repeated in ways that suggest meaning, yet despite decades of analysis, no one has definitively deciphered them. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs or Sumerian cuneiform, the Indus script leaves no bilingual texts or Rosetta Stone equivalent, offering only tantalizing fragments to guide scholars. Archaeologists have proposed that the symbols functioned as a writing system, possibly for trade, administration, or ritual communication. Indeed, many seals appear in commercial contexts, suggesting they were used to mark goods, property, or transactions. Yet some inscriptions are far too brief or abstract to be interpreted in straightforward linguistic terms, raising questions about whether the script might represent an entirely different system of communication, perhaps symbolic or proto-writing, rather than full language. What was being conveyed? Names, commodities, religious ideas, or knowledge now lost to us? The script's aesthetic consistency across a vast territory is remarkable. From Mohenjo-Daro in the south to Lothal in the east and Dholavira in the west, the symbols remain surprisingly uniform, despite the distances and diverse landscapes separating these urban centers. This suggests not only a high degree of coordination, but also the possibility of a shared intellectual or cultural framework. How did a civilization without apparent monumental armies or overt displays of centralized power maintain such standardization across hundreds of kilometers? And what does this tell us about their society, their beliefs, and the priorities that guided their daily lives? The signs themselves are intriguing. Many resemble animals, human figures, or geometric forms. Others are abstract, almost pictographic, their meanings obscured by the passage of time. Certain patterns recur on seals, amulets, and pottery, suggesting that the symbols were more than decorative. They carried information intended to be recognized and interpreted. Yet, for all our scrutiny, the exact nature of this information remains frustratingly elusive. Was it administrative, recording economic transactions and ownership, or did it encode spiritual, ritualistic, or astronomical knowledge, perhaps even a philosophical worldview we can barely imagine? Attempts to decipher the script have produced compelling but inconclusive theories. Linguists have compared it to Dravidian, Indo-European, and even lost languages of the region, searching for patterns that might yield phonetic or semantic insight. Others have applied computational methods, looking for statistical regularities that hint at grammar or syntax. Each approach offers hints, yet the ultimate key remains missing. Could it be that the script represents a form of communication fundamentally different from anything we use today? A system that transcends our conventional understanding of writing? Or is it simply that time has erased too much context for us to ever fully comprehend it? The Indus Valley script also prompts reflection on the civilization itself. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, the Indus cities reveal little evidence of monumental temples or overt religious symbolism. Their streets were meticulously planned, drainage systems sophisticated, and public buildings orderly. The script, however, suggests a parallel layer of meaning, a communication network that tied commerce, administration, and perhaps spirituality together. Was literacy widespread or restricted to a specialized class of scribes? Did the symbols represent a public code, a private language, or a ritualized system accessible only to the initiated? And then there is the question of disappearance. By 1900 BCE, the Indus civilization declined, its cities abandoned, its people dispersed, and its script falling silent. Unlike other ancient systems of writing, the Indus symbols were not transmitted or adapted by subsequent cultures. The knowledge embedded in these signs, the insights into society, trade, belief, and governance, vanished with the civilization itself. What circumstances led to this sudden disappearance, and why was the script not preserved, adapted, or recorded elsewhere? Standing over a small steatite seal or examining the faint carvings on a fragment of pottery, one feels a profound sense of both connection and dislocation. These symbols were created by human hands, shaped with care and intention, yet they speak to a world we cannot fully enter. Each sign, each repeating motif, is a message from a distant past, an invitation to glimpse a society of remarkable complexity. Yet their silence challenges our assumptions, reminding us that knowledge can vanish even in the presence of remarkable human achievement. The mystery of the Indus Valley script endures not only because of what it may say, but because of what it represents: a civilization capable of remarkable organization, artistry, and innovation, yet leaving behind an undeciphered language that shields its innermost workings from view. How much insight into trade, governance, and belief is locked away in these small, inscribed objects? And what does it reveal about the fragility of knowledge, the impermanence of human communication, and the secrets that may remain buried beneath the layers of earth and time? As the light fades over the ruins of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, the symbols etched into seals, pottery, and tablets remain silent but compelling. They are the whispers of a civilization lost yet extraordinary, a reminder that the past is never fully accessible, and that some of history's greatest mysteries may endure, inviting us to observe, wonder, and imagine. What knowledge remains hidden in these tiny carvings? What truths about a vanished civilization await discovery, patiently lying in wait beneath the Indus sands, ready to challenge our understanding once more? From the undeciphered symbols of the Indus Valley, we turn our gaze westward to a land of rugged highlands and ancient kingdoms, where another civilization inscribed its story upon clay, yet left behind enigmas that continue to challenge modern understanding. The Hittites, a powerful empire that flourished in Anatolia over 3,000 years ago, are known for their military prowess, expansive cities, and diplomatic achievements. Yet perhaps their most enduring legacy is found not in walls or monuments, but in the countless clay tablets etched with cuneiform script, a record of law, trade, ritual, and correspondence whose full meaning still eludes us in certain respects. Approaching a Hittite tablet, one is struck by the intricate precision of the cuneiform marks, each wedge and line pressed carefully into the clay while it was still soft. Some tablets are small, hand-held, likely meant for administrative use, while others are large and imposing, designed to preserve treaties, rituals, or historical events for posterity. Even the act of writing conveys intentionality and care. The Hittite scribes were artisans as well as record keepers, shaping symbols that were at once functional and ceremonial. The content of these tablets is extraordinary. Among them are treaties with neighboring empires, legal codes that predate comparable European systems by centuries, and ritual texts detailing ceremonies, sacrifices, and offerings to gods whose identities are only partially understood. Many tablets preserve instructions for kings, scribes, and priests, offering glimpses into governance, religion, and societal norms. Yet, despite the clarity of much of this writing, there remain symbols and formulations whose precise meanings resist translation, leaving gaps in our understanding. What aspects of Hittite society were considered too complex, too sacred, or too esoteric to be fully communicated, or perhaps simply lost with the passage of time? The Hittite cuneiform system itself is fascinating. Adapted from earlier Mesopotamian scripts, it evolved to fit the peculiarities of the Hittite language, a tongue belonging to the Anatolian branch of the Indo-European family. Scholars have painstakingly deciphered much of it, yet subtle nuances, unusual constructions, and regional variations continue to challenge researchers. Some tablets exhibit cryptic symbols that appear only rarely, suggesting that they encoded ritual or magical knowledge, or perhaps served as shorthand understood by only a select few. What secrets, if any, might these rare inscriptions conceal? Were they meant for practical administration, ceremonial recitation, or even something more profound? Knowledge deliberately hidden, preserved only for the initiated? One of the most intriguing aspects of the Hittite tablets lies in their treatment of diplomacy and international relations. The Hittites are known for the Treaty of Kadesh with Egypt, one of the earliest recorded peace agreements in human history. The tablets documenting such treaties display not only legal precision, but a symbolic weight, suggesting that the written word itself was imbued with power. Could some of the remaining undeciphered sections hint at additional agreements, alliances, or conflicts that have been lost to other sources? Or do they encode cultural practices, religious insights, or historical events that have simply vanished from the archaeological record? In addition to governance and diplomacy, many Hittite tablets preserve ritual knowledge that remains partly obscure. Instructions for temple ceremonies, sacrificial rites, and mystical invocations are detailed, yet some passages are enigmatic, referring to deities, forces, or practices that cannot be fully interpreted. Did the Hittites possess esoteric traditions, ritual codes known only to the priesthood, that we are only glimpsing fragmentarily through clay impressions? And if so, what does this say about the role of secrecy, knowledge, and power in their society? Even the physical form of the tablets carries meaning. Some were baked in kilns for permanence, others were left soft, perhaps intended as temporary records or instructional tools. The arrangement of symbols, the selection of clay, and the choice of medium all speak to intentionality beyond mere functionality. In certain cases, multiple tablets were stacked together, almost like a library or archive, suggesting a method of cataloging and preservation that demonstrates foresight and sophistication. Could there be additional, undiscovered archives still hidden beneath the ruins of Hattusa, waiting to reveal more of the Hittites' knowledge and worldview? Beyond the tangible, the Hittite tablets provoke reflection on the nature of human memory and history. Unlike monumental architecture, which can communicate power or grandeur across millennia, these clay records are subtle, fragile, and contingent upon careful preservation. Each tablet is a direct link to the minds and intentions of people who lived thousands of years ago, yet their voices speak partially, often in riddles. How much of the Hittite civilization's intellectual, spiritual, and political life remains inaccessible simply because the meaning of certain symbols is lost, or because tablets have not survived the ravages of time? Standing before a tablet in a museum or excavation site, one senses the tension between understanding and mystery. We can read fragments of law, trade, and ritual. We can glimpse the structure of a complex society. yet there remain shadows within the inscriptions, subtle gaps that refuse to be filled. These gaps are as significant as the known text, hinting at knowledge that may have been restricted, coded, or symbolic in ways we have yet to comprehend. What did the scribes intend us to know, and what was meant only for those who lived within the Hittite world? The mystery of the Hittite cuneiform tablets endures because it is simultaneously tangible and elusive. We hold the objects in our hands, yet the fullness of their message is beyond our grasp. They speak of administration, diplomacy, religion, and daily life, yet whisper of hidden rituals, unrecorded histories, and lost dimensions of understanding. How much insight into Hittite politics, belief, or society remains buried in these tablets? And how much knowledge, like that of the Indus Valley, or the Blythe Intaglios, or the Silver Pharaoh, will forever be tantalizingly out of reach? As the light falls across the rugged Anatolian landscape, illuminating the ruins of Hattusa and the clay fragments that have survived millennia, the tablets remain silent witnesses to an empire both formidable and enigmatic. They invite us to read, to speculate, and to imagine a civilization whose sophistication and secrets continue to challenge our understanding. What lies hidden in the wedges and lines of Hittite cuneiform? What stories, knowledge, or mysteries remain waiting for discovery, patiently pressed into clay by hands long gone but not forgotten? From the rugged clay tablets of the Hittite scribes, whose cuneiform marks still whisper tantalizing fragments of an ancient civilization, we journey southward across the Mediterranean to the sun-drenched island of Crete. Here, among the ruins of Bronze Age palaces and storied settlements, lies one of archaeology's most perplexing enigmas, the Phaistos Disc. Discovered in 1908 within the Minoan Palace complex of Phaistos, this small clay disc has captivated scholars and enthusiasts for over a century, not for its size, but for the mystery it contains. The disc itself is unassuming at first glance, about 15 centimeters in diameter, circular, and baked to a warm, earthy hue. Yet upon closer inspection, one notices the intricate spiral of symbols pressed into its surface, spiraling inward like a labyrinth of thought. Each mark was impressed individually with stamps, making the Phaistos disc arguably one of the earliest examples of movable type. The symbols range from human figures and animals to tools and abstract shapes, arranged in a sequence that clearly conveys meaning, but what that meaning might be remains elusive. Archaeologists have debated the disc's purpose since its discovery. Some propose it served as a religious artifact, a hymn or prayer pressed into clay for ritual use. Others suggest it was a record of trade, a calendrical device, or a form of communication that has left no other trace in the archaeological record. Unlike Linear A or Linear B, the writing systems of Minoan Crete, the Phaistos disc appears to stand alone, an isolated creation whose context and intent are almost entirely lost to time. Why was it created? For whom? And why does it appear so singular in the broader corpus of Minoan artifacts? The method of production adds another layer of intrigue. Each symbol was stamped rather than incised, indicating a deliberate and highly sophisticated process. Someone conceived not only the design but the tools, the stamps, and the sequencing necessary to create a coherent spiral of symbols. This level of planning and technical skill suggests a culture with an advanced understanding of both materials and abstract representation. Yet, without a key or Rosetta Stone, the disc's message remains encrypted. Did it encode words, syllables, ideas, or something more symbolic, meant for ritual rather than practical comprehension? The spiral itself invites reflection. Unlike linear texts, the inward progression of the disc encourages contemplation, drawing the eye toward the center, almost like a visual meditation. Could the shape have ritual significance, a symbolic journey from the outer world into the spiritual or cosmic core? Or was it a practical method for preserving text, a compact way to record information for limited readership. The layout, combined with the precision of the stamped symbols, suggests intention beyond mere decoration. Every choice, the spacing, the sequence, the spiral, is deliberate, yet the reasons remain obscured. Linguists and cryptographers have long attempted to decipher the Phaistos Disc. Comparisons with Linear A, Linear B, and other Aegean scripts have yielded tantalizing but inconclusive results. Some have proposed that it is an early form of writing, perhaps phonetic or logographic, while others suggest it represents a proto-alphabet or a symbolic code. A handful of researchers have attempted statistical analyses looking for patterns or recurring sequences, but the sample is frustratingly small. The disc is unique, with no known duplicates. Could this singularity indicate that it was a one-time ceremonial creation, or that it was part of a broader system now lost entirely? Beyond its symbols, the disc raises questions about its cultural context. The Minoan civilization, flourishing around 2000 to 1450 BCE, is renowned for its palaces, art, and maritime trade networks. Yet despite extensive excavation, no other examples of such stamped inscriptions have been found. Was the Phaistos Disc an experimental form of communication? A personal or royal message preserved in clay? Or could it have been a ritual object, a talisman, or a kind of mnemonic device for oral recitation? The possibilities are as vast as the Mediterranean horizon, and each theory carries its own implications for how we understand Minoan society. Speculation naturally extends to the symbols themselves. Are the human figures representations of deities, priests, or ordinary people? Do the animals signify myth, commerce, or cosmic forces? And what of the abstract shapes and tools? Are they literal, symbolic, or mnemonic? Each mark, though frozen in clay, invites endless interpretation, a silent dialogue across millennia that challenges our assumptions about writing, symbolism, and cognition in ancient societies. Even the discovery of the disc adds to its aura of mystery. Found within a relatively modest stratigraphic context in Phaistos, it seems almost accidental, as if the disc had been lost, buried, or deliberately deposited for reasons unknown. The fact that it survived millennia of earthquakes, human activity, and environmental change only deepens the sense that we are holding a fragile, singular message from a civilization that left few written traces behind. What other artifacts, texts, or objects might have accompanied it, now lost to time? Handling the disc, or even observing it under museum lights, conveys a palpable sense of intimacy and wonder. It is a testament to human ingenuity, abstract thinking, and ritual imagination. Yet it is also a reminder of the limits of our knowledge. Despite advanced tools, linguistics, and computational methods, the Phaistos Disc continues to defy complete understanding. Its spirals of symbols remain an open question, a whisper from a distant past urging us to wonder, to question, and to imagine. As the sun sets over Crete, casting long shadows across the ruins of Phaistos, the disc seems almost alive, its spiral guiding the eye inward, its symbols pressing their silent story upon us. We may never know its full meaning, nor the intentions of the hands that created it. Yet the Phaistos Disc endures, a quiet yet compelling reminder that the ancient world still holds secrets that challenge our understanding, calling us to look closer, think deeper, and wonder endlessly. What knowledge, what stories, and what mysteries remain hidden in the clay of a vanished civilization? From the spiraling symbols of the Phaistos Disc, a mysterious artifact whose secrets lie locked in clay, we journey across the globe and back in time to the arid coastal deserts of northern Chile and southern Peru. Here, in the harsh and unforgiving environment of the Atacama region, lies evidence of a human practice both extraordinary and enigmatic. The Chinchorro Mummies, some of the oldest artificially preserved human remains known to science. Long before the famed Egyptian mummies, the Chinchorro people were embalming their dead with techniques that continue to fascinate and perplex archaeologists. Walking along the dry, windswept coast, the first encounter with a Chinchorro mummy is startling. Unlike natural mummification, these bodies were deliberately treated. Their flesh removed or blackened with manganese, their skeletons carefully reinforced, their features reconstructed with clay, hair, and pigments. Eyes were sometimes replaced with shells, and mouths closed with sticks or clay, each figure a meticulous and sometimes haunting recreation of life. In some cases, even infants were preserved with extraordinary care, their small forms demonstrating a level of sophistication and devotion that raises profound questions about the society that produced them. Radiocarbon dating reveals that these practices date back as far as 7,000 years, making the Chinchorro mummies over 2 millennia older than the earliest Egyptian examples. Yet despite this astonishing antiquity, the Chinchorro culture left behind few other monuments, inscriptions, or artifacts. How did a small coastal fishing society develop such complex mortuary practices in relative isolation? What motivated them to preserve their dead so elaborately, long before comparable practices appeared elsewhere in the world? Was it religious belief, an early concept of ancestor veneration, or something else entirely? The mummification process itself is a puzzle. Scientists have identified multiple techniques. Some bodies were simply disassembled and reassembled with care. Others underwent more complex treatment, with skin removed, organs replaced with clay, and hair incorporated into the reconstruction. These methods indicate not only anatomical knowledge but also a remarkable understanding of preservation in an extreme environment. Was this knowledge purely empirical, developed over generations through observation, or guided by ritual or spiritual insight that has since vanished? And why did they invest such extraordinary time and skill in preserving individuals, including the very young and elderly, who might have seemed less significant to societies elsewhere? Equally perplexing is the cultural reasoning behind the mummification. Many scholars suggest that the Chinchorro people viewed death not as an end, but as a transition, a stage in an ongoing relationship between the living and the dead. Yet the precise nature of this belief remains elusive. Were these mummies objects of worship, intermediaries between humans and the spiritual world, or simply expressions of social cohesion and memory? And why does the practice appear so unique, emerging in such an isolated region and persisting for millennia before disappearing around 3000 BCE? The mummies themselves also raise questions about identity and individuality. Unlike Egyptian mummies, which were often reserved for royalty and elites, the Chinchorro mummification process appears to have encompassed nearly all members of society. Men, women, children, infants, even fetuses were treated with the same elaborate care. What does this egalitarian approach tell us about the social structures and values of the Chinchorro people? Was this universality a reflection of spiritual beliefs, a communal ethic, or some aspect of daily life and death that we can only partially grasp? Scientific analysis continues to uncover more mysteries. Studies of hair, bone, and preserved tissue provide insight into diet, disease, and environment, yet they also reveal anomalies that remain difficult to explain fully. For instance, evidence of certain pigments and chemicals used in the mummification process suggests materials obtained from distant regions or synthesized in sophisticated ways. How did a small coastal society acquire or develop these substances? Was there a practical preservation purpose, a symbolic significance, or both? And why did the practice vanish entirely, leaving no written records or clear explanation? The visual impact of the Chinchorro mummies is profound. Their reconstructed features, often painted black or red, convey a presence that transcends time. One can sense the intent behind each gesture, the careful alignment of limbs, the placement of clay and shells, the recreation of facial features. It is as if the Chinchorro were communicating across millennia, offering a silent testimony of care, memory, and the human desire to endure beyond mortality. Yet, for all their immediacy, the mummies remain profoundly enigmatic, their creators' motivations largely hidden from view. This mystery extends beyond mortuary practice to the broader context of the Chinchorro culture. Why did such an advanced approach to death exist in a society that left so few other monumental markers? What drove a relatively small population to achieve such sophistication in a single aspect of life, while leaving little evidence of parallel developments in writing, architecture, or governance? Are there connections we have yet to uncover, perhaps in the form of settlements, artifacts, or oral traditions, waiting to reveal more about the society's worldview? Standing before a Chinchorro mummy in a museum or archaeological site, one feels a mixture of awe and contemplation. These bodies are more than preserved remains. They are messages from the past, carefully crafted expressions of identity, care, and belief. Yet they are also reminders of what is lost, of a society's motivations, rituals, and knowledge that we can only infer from the traces left behind. What can these mummies tell us about the earliest human attempts to confront mortality, preserve memory, and bridge the gap between life and death? And what other secrets, buried beneath the sands of northern Chile, remain to be discovered, patiently waiting for those willing to look? As the sun sets over the coastal desert, casting long shadows across the dry, windswept terrain, the Chinchorro mummies stand as silent witnesses to a human story that predates civilization itself. They remind us that even in the harshest of environments, humans sought connection, ritual, and continuity. And while we may never fully understand their intentions, the mummies compel us to reflect how much of human ingenuity, care, and spirituality has vanished, leaving behind only fragments that challenge our understanding, and what other mysteries lie hidden in the sands of time, waiting to be revealed. From the ancient shores of Chile, where the Chinchorro mummies bear silent witness to a society's reverence for the dead, we turn northward across the Americas to the fertile floodplains of the Mississippi River. Here, amid the rolling plains and wooded riverbanks of modern-day Illinois, rise the Cahokia Mounds, earthworks of astonishing scale and sophistication, remnants of a civilization that flourished long before European contact, yet whose origins and disappearance remain shrouded in mystery. Approaching Cahokia, one is immediately struck by the monumental presence of the largest mound, Monk's Mound, its terraces ascending in broad, sloping steps to a height of nearly 30 meters. Spread across roughly 6 square kilometers, the site contains over 120 mounds, forming an urban landscape of extraordinary planning and vision. The largest earthwork of its kind in North America, Cahokia challenges modern preconceptions of what a pre-Columbian city could achieve. How did a society without metal tools, draft animals, or wheeled transport organize and move such immense quantities of earth? What motivated this collective effort, and to what end were these massive constructions intended? Archaeologists have uncovered the remains of a complex and densely populated settlement. Wooden structures, plazas, and ceremonial spaces suggest a city of tens of thousands, with social hierarchies, craft specialization, and a sophisticated economy based on agriculture, trade, and ritual. Yet despite these insights, many questions remain. The purpose of the mounds themselves is only partially understood. Some were clearly platforms for elite dwellings or temples. Others served as burial sites, while the function of many remains uncertain. Was Cahokia designed as a political and religious capital, a cosmological representation of the universe, or a hybrid of both? The spatial arrangement of the mounds adds to the enigma. Certain alignments correspond with astronomical events. the solstices, equinoxes, and possibly lunar cycles, suggesting that the Cahokians possessed an advanced understanding of celestial patterns. Could these alignments indicate ritual observances, agricultural planning, or an effort to impose cosmic order on the landscape? And if so, what does this reveal about the intersection of spirituality, science, and governance in a society that left no written records? Artifacts recovered from Cahokia further hint at a culture of remarkable connectivity and influence. Objects made from materials originating hundreds of kilometers away, shells, copper, and stone, suggest extensive trade networks, while intricately crafted pottery, tools, and effigies display technical and artistic sophistication. Yet many of these items resist straightforward interpretation. Certain symbolic motifs, including carved stone tablets and figurines, hint at ritual or spiritual practices that remain largely opaque. What did these symbols mean to the people who created them? And how might these beliefs have shaped the construction of monumental earthworks visible across the floodplain? Equally compelling are the human remains uncovered at Cahokia. Mass burials, elaborate tombs, and evidence of social stratification indicate complex cultural norms surrounding life, death, and status. Some skeletons display signs of ritualistic modification or ceremonial treatment, hinting at practices that are difficult to contextualize fully. How did the Cahokians understand mortality and the afterlife? What social or spiritual imperatives drove the construction of these grand mounds? And why were some individuals interred with such elaborate care while others were not? The city's sudden decline around 1350 CE adds yet another layer of mystery. By the time European explorers reached the region, Cahokia had been largely abandoned, its terraces overgrown, its plazas silent. Climate change, resource depletion, social upheaval, or conflict have all been proposed as causes, yet none fully explain why one of the most complex urban centers of its time disappeared so completely. Could the abandonment of Cahokia reflect broader societal or environmental pressures? Or were there spiritual, cultural, or political factors that modern archaeology has yet to uncover? Even the daily life of Cahokia's inhabitants raises questions. How did they manage agriculture, water, and trade to sustain such a large population? How were social hierarchies maintained, and what role did ritual and ceremony play in reinforcing communal cohesion? Unlike civilizations that left written records, the Cahokians communicated through architecture, iconography, and material culture, leaving us to interpret meaning from the arrangement of mounds, artifacts, and landscapes. Each mound, each carved object, each carefully placed feature is a message frozen in time, an invitation to understand, yet a reminder of the limits of our knowledge. Walking among the mounds today, one senses the grandeur and ambition of a society capable of transforming the earth itself into a living, structured environment. The sheer scale of labor and coordination suggests sophisticated leadership and shared cultural vision. Yet the absence of written records makes the motivations behind these constructions tantalizingly elusive. Were the mounds expressions of power, religion, astronomy, or something more ineffable? A combination of these forces intertwined with belief and identity? The Cahokia Mounds endure as silent witnesses to human ingenuity, societal complexity, and the mysteries of the past. They remind us that civilizations rise and fall, leaving traces that provoke wonder, curiosity, and contemplation. What knowledge, traditions, or worldviews have been lost alongside the city itself? How did the Cahokians perceive the cosmos, structure their society, and engage with mortality? And what further secrets lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered by those patient and perceptive enough to look closely? As the sun dips over the Mississippi floodplain, casting long shadows across Monk's Mound and the surrounding terraces. The Cahokia Mounds stand as enduring monuments to ambition, ritual, and the human desire to shape the world. They call us to wonder, to question, and to reflect on the civilizations that came before, whose stories are etched not in ink or clay, but in the very earth beneath our feet. What remains concealed within these monumental earthen forms, and how much of humanity's earliest ingenuity and its mysteries will remain forever just beyond our reach? From the monumental earthworks of Cahokia, where human hands shaped the landscape to reflect power, ritual, and celestial order, we journey across continents and centuries to a legend whose weight is felt far beyond the confines of any single civilization. It is the story of Alexander the Great, the Macedonian conqueror whose campaigns spanned from Greece to the Indus, and whose final resting place, the tomb that should have enshrined his extraordinary life, remains one of history's most enduring mysteries. Alexander died in 323 BCE in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon at the age of just 32. His empire stretched over 3 continents, uniting cultures and peoples under his authority. Yet, in death, he vanished. Historical accounts suggest that his body was initially placed in a golden sarcophagus, adorned with precious materials, and later transported to Egypt. According to some sources, the city of Alexandria, founded by the man himself on the Mediterranean coast, was chosen as his eternal resting place. But here, certainty ends, and speculation begins. The earliest records describe a grand procession with Ptolemy I, one of Alexander's generals, allegedly seizing control of the body to consolidate power in Egypt. From there, accounts diverge dramatically. Some claim the tomb stood in Alexandria, a monumental structure attracting pilgrims, dignitaries, and historians alike. Yet, by late antiquity, reports suggest the tomb had disappeared from view, its precise location lost amidst the growing city and centuries of upheaval. How could the resting place of one of history's most famous figures simply vanish? And what secrets, ambitions, or disasters might have contributed to its disappearance? Archaeologists and historians have scoured the sands of Egypt for clues. Some point to the now lost Soma or Kom el Dika districts of ancient Alexandria, while others suggest alternative locations, from underground chambers near the royal palace to remote hidden crypts. Occasionally, fragments of statues, inscriptions, or coins appear, tantalizing in their potential connection to the tomb, yet none provide conclusive evidence. Could these hints indicate a tomb deliberately concealed, or has it been entirely destroyed by time, natural disaster, or human ambition? The historical accounts themselves add layers of intrigue. Ancient writers like Strabo, Pausanias, and Plutarch describe the tomb in ways that mix observation with legend. Strabo mentions a magnificent structure adorned with gold and precious stones, while Pausanias notes the devotion of visitors who sought to pay homage to the conqueror. Later, Roman authors recount that Julius Caesar and Augustus himself visited the tomb, yet by the 5th century CE, references disappear. Did political upheaval, urban expansion, or changing dynasties erase the tomb? Or did Alexander's legacy inspire deliberate concealment, hidden to protect his remains from desecration or exploitation? Some fringe theories offer more speculative possibilities. Could Alexander's body have been relocated entirely, transported along secret routes to obscure the tomb's location from rivals? Or, as some have suggested, was the tomb never intended as a public monument, but as a private, ritualized chamber known only to a select few? These ideas, while unverified, underscore the depth of uncertainty surrounding one of history's most legendary figures. They invite us to question not only the whereabouts of his body, but the cultural, political, and spiritual intentions that shaped the treatment of his remains. Even the nature of the tomb itself is shrouded in mystery. Descriptions imply a structure of unparalleled opulence, a testament to Alexander's enduring power. But was it a traditional Egyptian-style pyramid, a Greco-Macedonian mausoleum, or some hybrid yet unknown to modern scholarship? The tomb may have been more than a resting place. It may have served as a political statement, a ritual space, or even a repository of knowledge, commemorating Alexander's vision of a unified empire. And if so, what might have been lost along with the tomb itself? The fascination with Alexander's burial site reflects more than mere curiosity about a historical figure. It is tied to human desire to understand power, mortality, and legacy. The disappearance of his tomb challenges assumptions about permanence, memory, and history. Even today, the search continues through excavation, satellite imagery, and textual analysis. Yet the elusive nature of the tomb resists final resolution. Each discovery hints at possibility, yet every certainty dissolves under the weight of centuries. Walking through the ruins of Alexandria, one can almost sense the ghost of ambition that once surrounded the Macedonian conqueror. The streets, temples, and harbors that Alexander himself would have known have shifted, sunk, and been rebuilt countless times, leaving layers of civilization above the lost tomb. And yet the story endures. What treasures, inscriptions, or relics might still lie hidden beneath the city, silently preserving knowledge of a man whose influence shaped the course of history? Could modern technology, ground-penetrating radar, aerial surveys, or advanced archaeological methods finally reveal the location, or is it destined to remain a mystery, a story of absence as much as presence? The legend of Alexander's tomb is, in many ways, a mirror of his life, extraordinary, expansive, and unfinished. It speaks to the fragility of human endeavors, the impermanence of even the most grandiose monuments, and the enduring power of mystery. While we know much about his conquests, strategies, and empire, the location and nature of his final resting place remain tantalizingly beyond reach, an unresolved chapter in the history of one of the world's most famous figures. As the Mediterranean sun dips toward the horizon over modern Alexandria, casting long shadows across streets layered with millennia of human activity, one can almost imagine a hidden chamber lying beneath the city's foundations. Within it, perhaps, lies the remains of Alexander, preserved and concealed, a silent witness to ambition, conquest, and the relentless passage of time. What truths, treasures, and mysteries remain locked away in that lost tomb? And how much of human history and legend remains hidden beneath the surface, waiting for discovery by those willing to look, to imagine, and to wonder? From the shadows of a vanished tomb, where the final resting place of Alexander the Great eludes historians and treasure hunters alike, we shift our gaze northward to a map that challenges our understanding of history itself, the Vinland Map. Unlike mummies, tombs, or monumental earthworks, this artifact is subtle, almost deceptively ordinary, a piece of parchment inscribed with lines, symbols, and names, suggesting that the Norse may have reached the shores of North America centuries before Columbus. Yet its origins, authenticity, and implications remain intensely debated, making it one of the most provocative documents in the study of exploration and discovery. At first glance, the map is unassuming. On a sheet of vellum, roughly the size of a modern newspaper, are carefully drawn coastlines, annotations in Latin, and a clear marking labeled Vinland along a northern Atlantic shoreline. The style is reminiscent of 15th century European cartography, yet the content suggests knowledge of lands far beyond the commonly accepted limits of medieval exploration. It is this tension between apparent medieval technique and potentially ancient Norse knowledge that has captivated historians and cryptographers for decades. The Vinland Map first came to public attention in the mid-20th century, sparking both excitement and skepticism. Chemical analyses, paleographic studies, and ink examinations have alternately supported and challenged its authenticity. Some argue that the ink contains components consistent with medieval production, while others suggest later additions may have been made to enhance credibility or obscure origin. Was it a genuine record of Norse expeditions, a clever forgery, or a hybrid of both, created for reasons we may never fully understand? What the map depicts is equally compelling. The labeling of Vinland aligns intriguingly with archaeological evidence from Norse settlements, such as Lascaux Meadows in Newfoundland, where remnants of Norse architecture, tools, and everyday life have been discovered. Could the Vinland Map represent a lost bridge between Old World knowledge and the unexplored Americas, a snapshot of exploration recorded on parchment for posterity? Or does it reflect wishful thinking, myth, or posthumous speculation imposed upon a piece of medieval cartography by an unknown hand? The map's details are tantalizing. Coastlines are drawn with surprising accuracy, rivers are traced with care, and annotations suggest an understanding of geography not commonly attributed to Europeans of the 15th century. Yet the sources of this knowledge are unclear. Did the creator rely on oral Norse traditions, reports from explorers, or mere conjecture? And if the knowledge predates the widespread European voyages of discovery, what does this imply about the flow of information across cultures, oceans, and centuries? Equally mysterious is the purpose of the map. Was it intended as a navigational guide, a historical record, or even a political or religious artifact, designed to assert knowledge of distant lands in a time when exploration was fraught with uncertainty and peril? Unlike modern maps, which prioritize accuracy and scale, the Vinland Map interweaves practical observation with narrative and symbolic elements. The lines drawn may carry more than geographic information. They may encode perception, aspiration, or even ideology, hinting at a worldview that combined empirical knowledge with imagination. The controversy surrounding the map's authenticity adds another layer of intrigue. Scholars have debated ink composition, parchment age, and writing style, with some experts convinced it is a genuine 15th century document referencing earlier Norse knowledge, while others insist it is a sophisticated modern forgery. Recent forensic techniques, including spectroscopy and radiocarbon dating, have complicated rather than resolved the debate, leaving the map suspended between possibility and skepticism. Could the Vinland Map be one of history's most daring hoaxes, or a testament to a lost chapter of transatlantic exploration? Beyond the technical debates, the map inspires reflection on human curiosity and ambition. It hints at voyages across oceans, encounters with unknown lands, and the recording of that knowledge for generations to come. Whether fact or fiction, the Vinland Map embodies the spirit of discovery, the desire to understand the world beyond familiar horizons, and the enduring mystery of what knowledge may have been acquired and lost before the great voyages of the 15th and 16th centuries. Holding the map in a museum or studying it in a research archive, one cannot escape the tension between certainty and speculation. Every line, every annotation, every subtle curvature of a coastline is both a promise and a question. It suggests contact, observation, and understanding, yet simultaneously reminds us that context, intent, and provenance remain uncertain. What truths lie hidden in its delicate vellum? What knowledge of distant lands was preserved, distorted, or erased before our time? And how much of history's earliest exploration remains undocumented, waiting for discovery in fragments like this one? The Vinland Map's story also resonates with broader questions about the past: how knowledge is transmitted, how legends intersect with evidence, and how much of human ambition is preserved in artifacts that are at once mundane and extraordinary. It challenges us to reconsider accepted timelines of exploration, to imagine seafaring peoples crossing oceans with skill and determination, and to confront the possibility that our understanding of pre-Columbian contact with the Americas may be incomplete. influenced as much by discovery as by suppression, chance, and lost records. As the map rests under glass, its faded ink and faint lines hinting at distant shores and lost voyages, it invites us to wonder. Could the contours drawn centuries ago represent actual knowledge of lands unknown to most of Europe at the time? Or are they the product of imagination, myth, or even subtle deception? In either case, the Vinland Map endures as a testament to human curiosity, ambition, and the persistent allure of the unknown. How much remains hidden in the folds of history, waiting for those who can decipher the faint whispers of exploration, insight, and human endeavor that survive in parchment, clay, and stone? From the faint inked lines of the Vinland Map, which hint at voyages across unknown seas and lost knowledge of distant lands, we now descend, literally, into a world hidden beneath the earth. In the heart of Turkey's Cappadocia region lies a subterranean labyrinth so vast and complex that it seems to defy comprehension. The Derinkuyu underground tunnels. Here, centuries of human ingenuity and secrecy converge in a shadowed domain where the boundaries between civilization and mystery blur, and where every corridor, chamber, and staircase hold stories that refuse to be fully revealed. The entrance to Derinkuyu is unassuming. A narrow carved doorway at ground level, easily overlooked amidst the rocky landscape of volcanic tuff. But step inside, and the world transforms. Descending spiral staircases lead into an intricate network of tunnels, stretching at least 60 meters deep, encompassing living quarters, kitchens, wine presses, stables, chapels, ventilation shafts, and even communal wells. The ingenuity of its design is immediately apparent. The tunnels are carefully planned, with secure passageways, massive rolling stone doors, and air shafts engineered to sustain life for prolonged periods. Who envisioned such a subterranean city, and for what purpose? Archaeologists trace the earliest construction of Derinkuyu to around the 8th to 7th centuries BCE, though much of the complex was expanded over subsequent centuries. The region's volcanic rock is soft enough to carve yet resilient enough to support vast multi-level chambers. Yet even with these advantages, the scale and precision are extraordinary. Carving such an extensive underground network by hand would have required careful planning, considerable labor, and detailed knowledge of structural engineering. How did ancient peoples coordinate such efforts, and why invest such energy into creating a hidden city that could house thousands? Mainstream theories suggest that Derinkuyu was a refuge, a sanctuary for communities facing invasions, religious persecution, or natural threats. Indeed, the design supports such a function. Narrow corridors, slow intruders, dead ends, and false passages confuse enemies, and massive stone doors could seal entire sections in times of danger. It is a structure built with survival in mind. Yet even with these practical explanations, questions remain. The scale is immense, suggesting preparation for prolonged habitation and perhaps storage of more than mere supplies. Were the tunnels solely a defensive measure, or did they serve other purposes, perhaps ritual, spiritual, or symbolic? The architecture of Derinkuyu adds to its enigmatic allure. Certain chambers appear highly specialized, ventilation systems designed to circulate air even in the deepest levels, communal spaces with symbolic markings, and vertical shafts that allow for movement, light, and water access. These features hint at an advanced understanding of subterranean life that would have been extraordinary for the time. How did the builders anticipate the needs of entire communities underground, generations in advance? And what knowledge, engineering, astronomical, or otherwise, might have been embedded in their planning, now lost to history? Derinkuyu's connection to other underground complexes in Cappadocia deepens the mystery. Nearby tunnels link with neighboring cities, forming a network that stretches for kilometers, suggesting coordinated construction and perhaps shared cultural or strategic purpose. Did these communities communicate and cooperate on a scale we have yet to fully understand? Or do the tunnels represent layers of construction over time, each civilization leaving its mark while building upon the work of predecessors, resulting in a composite labyrinth whose full story remains hidden? Speculative theories abound. Some suggest the tunnels were used by secret religious communities, early Christians hiding from Roman persecution, or even as venues for esoteric rituals. Others propose that Derinkuyu served as a storage and operational hub for trade, governance, or defense. Fringe ideas venture further, imagining subterranean refuges connected to lost civilizations, or even extraterrestrial contact, though these remain unverified and largely conjectural. Yet, each interpretation reflects the awe and curiosity inspired by a site that challenges our assumptions about what ancient peoples were capable of achieving. The human element of Derinkuyu is especially compelling. Evidence of daily life, storage jars, sleeping niches, hearths, and wine presses, suggests that families inhabited the tunnels, not just soldiers or monks. Life underground would have required careful social organization, resource management, and perhaps even spiritual practice to sustain morale. What was it like to live generations in the dimly lit corridors under the earth, separated from the sun, yet entirely reliant on one another? And what social structures, traditions, or rules governed life in this hidden city? Even the entrances themselves raise questions. Some are easily concealed, others strategically placed for visibility or defensive advantage. The placement and design of these access points suggest careful consideration of both security and mobility. How much of this network has been lost to time, collapse, or sediment? Could there be hidden chambers, unexcavated levels, or secret passageways still waiting to be discovered, holding artifacts, writings, or evidence of practices long forgotten? Walking through Derinkuyu today, with its carved staircases echoing beneath your footsteps and the faint scent of earth and history, one experiences a profound connection to the ingenuity and determination of ancient peoples. Yet the deeper one explores, the more the questions multiply. Who designed this labyrinth, and why? How was knowledge of construction, ventilation, and life underground transmitted across generations? And what events or fears compelled communities to retreat beneath the surface of the earth, creating a city that could shelter thousands for weeks, months, or even years? Derinkuyu remains a monument to human resilience, imagination, and the desire to protect and preserve life in the face of uncertainty. It reminds us that even beneath the surface, civilizations have left traces of ambition, engineering skill, and cultural sophistication that continue to inspire awe. Yet for all its apparent purpose and planning, it also embodies the unknowable, a labyrinth of unanswered questions, silent corridors, and unseen chambers, preserving mysteries that invite reflection and wonder. What other secrets might lie hidden in its depths, and how much of human ingenuity and fear, hope, and survival instinct is embedded in these tunnels, waiting for the curious to uncover? From the shadowed corridors of Derinkuyu, where generations carved hidden cities beneath the earth to protect life and community, we now emerge into a different kind of subterranean world, a sanctuary of expression, mystery, and timeless creativity. Deep within the hills of southwestern France lies Lascaux, a cave whose walls hold some of the most extraordinary testimonies of human imagination and observation ever discovered: the Lascaux cave paintings. Here, tens of thousands of years ago, Paleolithic humans inscribed their vision of the world onto stone, leaving a record that continues to challenge, inspire, and perplex. The entrance to Lascaux is subtle, tucked beneath the forested hills of the Vézère Valley. Step inside, and the air grows cool and still, carrying the faint, almost tangible scent of ancient stone. The walls open into a series of chambers and passages, each adorned with intricate depictions of animals: horses, bulls, stags, bison, painted with mineral pigments in vivid reds, ochres, blacks, and yellows. These figures move across the rock in dynamic compositions, their forms imbued with motion and life despite the stillness of the stone. Even today, standing in the dim light, it is impossible not to feel the presence of those who created them, to sense the intentions and emotions encoded in each brushstroke and engraving. Dating back approximately 17,000 years, these paintings are a window into a world long vanished. Yet, while their age and sophistication are clear, their meaning remains elusive. Were they intended as mere decoration, a way to commemorate hunting, or a form of storytelling? Or did they serve a ritual purpose, perhaps to ensure success in the hunt, to communicate with spiritual forces, or to instruct younger generations in the ways of survival? The absence of written records leaves us only with speculation, guided by careful observation, comparison, and interpretation. The Lascaux artists employed remarkable techniques. They utilized the contours of the cave walls to give form and perspective, often exaggerating musculature or motion to convey vitality. Some animals are depicted overlapping, creating a sense of depth and narrative. Red and black pigments, derived from natural minerals, were applied with brushes, fingers, or even rudimentary blowpipes. Such technical sophistication suggests not only artistic skill, but a conceptual understanding of representation and symbolism far ahead of its time. How did these early humans conceive of these images? And what cognitive leaps allowed them to translate perception, memory, and imagination into enduring visual forms? Scholars have debated the purpose of Lascaux for decades. One line of thought suggests a shamanistic or ritual function. The caves may have been sacred spaces where individuals engaged in ceremonies, trance states, or spiritual journeys. Others argue that the paintings are mnemonic tools, aids for hunting knowledge, territorial claims, or seasonal observation. Yet despite extensive study, no single explanation accounts for the full range of images, techniques, and layouts. Were the images intended for a select few, or were they part of a communal experience? And what might the interplay of animals, symbols, and geometric shapes reveal about Paleolithic cognition, belief, or social structure? The paintings also contain enigmatic signs, dots, lines, abstract forms that remain largely undeciphered. Some suggest these are proto-writing, calendrical markers, or symbolic codes, while others see them as ritualistic or purely artistic embellishments. Their placement near specific animals, or in particular chambers, may hold significance we cannot yet grasp. Could these abstract elements represent early attempts at symbolic communication, mapping not just the physical world, but the conceptual and spiritual as well? The discovery of Lascaux in 1940 by a group of teenagers revealed the cave's treasures to the modern world, but it also introduced new challenges. Human presence and exposure to light, moisture, and carbon dioxide from breath began to damage the fragile pigments, forcing the cave to close to the public in 1963. Today, replicas allow visitors to experience the artistry without endangering the originals. Yet even these reproductions cannot fully capture the intimacy, scale, and atmosphere of the subterranean chambers. Standing before the painted walls, one cannot help but feel a connection across millennia, a dialogue between the living and the long-departed artists. Speculative theories extend further, proposing that the caves represent not only ritual or communication, but also cognitive milestones, the externalization of abstract thought, a precursor to writing, or even an early form of mapping, recording animals, seasons, or migratory patterns. Could the placement of certain animals correspond to astronomical observations, landscape features, or mythic cosmologies? And if so, What does this imply about the intellectual and cultural sophistication of people who lived tens of thousands of years ago? What makes Lascaux particularly compelling is the combination of technical mastery and mystery. Every figure, every line, and every subtle shading invites observation, reflection, and wonder. The caves preserve not just images, but a story of human imagination, observation, and ingenuity, offering a rare glimpse into a world before written history, when survival, spirituality, and art were inseparably intertwined. Yet the full story remains hidden, encoded in pigment, rock, and the intentions of those who left their mark. Walking through the dimly lit corridors, surrounded by depictions of creatures that once roamed the European landscape, one is struck by both the intimacy and the enigma of the space. The artists were ordinary humans, yet their vision reaches across tens of millennia, communicating ideas, beliefs, and artistic sensibilities we can only attempt to interpret. What did these animals signify to their creators? What experiences, fears, and aspirations were conveyed in each handprint or brushstroke? And what other images, lost to time, might have existed in chambers yet undiscovered or erased by natural processes? The Lascaux cave paintings remind us that human creativity, observation, and imagination are ancient and enduring. They challenge our understanding of prehistoric societies, inviting us to consider the depth of human thought long before the rise of cities, writing, or formalized religion. And while we can marvel at the skill, intention, and beauty of these paintings, the ultimate meaning, why these images were created, for whom, and with what purpose, remains unresolved. They are a testament to humanity's earliest attempts to understand, communicate, and preserve the world, leaving behind a mystery that continues to speak across the ages, waiting for those who will stand in the flickering shadows and wonder, what stories, knowledge, and meaning remain hidden in the stone? From the hidden labyrinths of Derinkuyu, where entire communities carved sanctuaries beneath the earth to survive, we now emerge into a world of delicate light and color, a subterranean gallery of human expression that has captivated the imagination for generations. In the rolling hills of southwestern France, near the Vézère Valley, lies the Lascaux Cave, a chamber of astonishing artistic achievement where Paleolithic humans etched and painted some of the oldest and most sophisticated images ever discovered. Here, on walls of cool silicate stone, the echoes of lives lived tens of thousands of years ago are preserved in ochre, black, and red pigments, forming a silent dialogue across millennia. Entering Lascaux is to step into another dimension. The air is still, heavy with the weight of history, and the walls close in as the winding passages reveal themselves, chamber by chamber. There is a hush here, as if the very stone guards the secrets of those who came before. Across these walls move bison, horses, stags, and enigmatic composite creatures, captured in a way that conveys motion, vitality, and an intimate knowledge of anatomy. Even in their stillness, the figures seem alive, their eyes following the observer, their forms a testament to observation and imagination. How did humans, so far removed from modern civilization, conceive of such realism and narrative? Dating back roughly 17,000 years, the Lascaux paintings are remarkable not only for their age but for their sophistication. The use of natural pigments, combined with careful layering, shading, and the exploitation of the cave's contours, creates a three-dimensional effect that rivals art from millennia later. Many animals are drawn in composite view, heads in profile, bodies frontal, suggesting an understanding of perspective, motion, and form. What cognitive and cultural leaps allowed humans of the Upper Paleolithic to translate their perceptions of the world into such lasting, complex visual statements? Mainstream interpretations suggest practical and symbolic purposes. Some argue that the paintings were part of hunting magic, a way to ensure success in the hunt or to honor the animals on which survival depended. Others see the caves as sacred spaces, perhaps the domain of shamans or spiritual practitioners, where ritualized activity connected humans to forces beyond their immediate comprehension. Yet neither explanation can fully account for the selection of animals, the placement of geometric symbols, or the consistency of style across chambers. Could there be layers of meaning lost to time, encoded in shapes, lines, and positioning that we have yet to decipher? The presence of abstract signs, dots, grids, and enigmatic symbols adds to the intrigue. Scholars speculate these could be proto-writing, mnemonic devices, astronomical markers, or symbolic codes, yet their precise function remains uncertain. Were they meant to communicate information to a specific audience, record observations of seasonal or migratory patterns, or represent spiritual concepts? Or do they point to a mode of thinking fundamentally different from our own, one in which the visual, symbolic, and practical intertwined seamlessly? Even the architecture of the cave suggests intentionality beyond mere shelter. Certain chambers are more elaborate, with higher ceilings and more intricate paintings, while others contain repeated motifs and patterns that may indicate ritual paths or zones of significance. The artists were not merely painting on available surfaces, they were curating an immersive experience, using space, light, and form to create impact. How did they anticipate the way observers would move through these spaces, and what social or spiritual rules governed their creation and interaction with the art? Speculative theories extend into more enigmatic territory. Some propose that Lascaux served as an early observatory or cosmological map, connecting earthbound life with celestial movements. Others suggest the paintings represent a form of storytelling, recording mythic narratives, ancestral memories, or visionary experiences. Could the creatures depicted include mythological hybrids, or were they artistic interpretations of actual animals, altered to convey meaning beyond simple representation? Each possibility raises further questions about the depth of Paleolithic cognition and the symbolic sophistication of societies long presumed to be primitive. The discovery of Lascaux in 1940 by a group of local teenagers revealed a world frozen in time, yet it also brought new challenges. Human presence, exposure to light, and subtle changes in humidity began to damage the fragile pigments, forcing the cave to close to the public in 1963. Today, replicas allow us to experience the art without endangering the originals, but even these reproductions cannot capture the full intimacy, scale, or aura of the cave. Standing before the walls, one senses the deliberate choices, the labor, and the care that went into each brushstroke and engraving. These are not casual markings. They are intentional acts of communication, observation, and expression. Lascaux continues to challenge modern understanding. What motivated these early humans to create images of such sophistication in locations so deep and inaccessible? Were the paintings meant to last, or were they ephemeral expressions of belief and ritual whose survival was accidental? And perhaps most importantly, what other forms of knowledge, culture, and cognition from this era have been lost, leaving only tantalizing fragments in stone, pigment, and memory? Walking through Lascaux is to encounter the intersection of art, ritual, and mystery. Each animal, each pattern, each handprint is a trace of human intention and imagination, preserved across 17,000 years. And yet, for all its beauty and complexity, the cave leaves us with questions that remain unanswered. What stories, knowledge, or spiritual insights were encoded in these chambers, and what might have been lost to time, decay, or the simple accident of survival? The Lascaux cave paintings endure as a silent, profound reminder that human curiosity, creativity, and the desire to understand and record the world are ancient and enduring, a mystery that continues to speak, quietly but insistently, across the millennia. From the pale depictions of ancient animals on the walls of Lascaux, where the hands and eyes of long-vanished humans speak across millennia, we now turn to a civilization whose legacy lies not in caves, but beneath the rolling hills of central Italy, the Etruscans. Centuries before Rome rose to dominance, the Etruscans flourished, leaving behind cities, art, and, most intriguingly, their tombs. These subterranean chambers, hidden in necropolises scattered across Tuscany, Lazio, and Umbria, are silent yet eloquent witnesses to a culture both sophisticated and enigmatic, offering glimpses into a world whose full story has been partially lost to time. Approaching an Etruscan necropolis, the tombs at first seem modest. Stone entrances are tucked into hillsides or beneath mounds of earth, unassuming amidst olive groves and vineyards. Step inside, however, and one enters a complex labyrinth of rock-cut chambers, long corridors, and vaulted ceilings adorned with intricate frescoes, carvings, and symbolic motifs. Some tombs resemble domestic houses, complete with furniture, painted walls, and depictions of banquets. Others take the form of elaborate ritual spaces, hinting at beliefs about the afterlife and the journey beyond death. Even today, the air is heavy with the weight of centuries, and one can almost sense the Etruscans' attention to detail and devotion to preserving memory. Dating from around the 9th to the 3rd century BCE, Etruscan tombs reveal a culture that placed immense importance on funerary practice. Wealthy families invested vast resources in subterranean homes for their dead, with chambers large enough to accommodate extended family members over generations. Yet the purpose of these tombs is about more than interment. They were expressions of identity, power, and spirituality. Why did the Etruscans go to such lengths to craft these hidden spaces? What messages did they intend to convey to the living and the departed alike? The tombs themselves are architectural marvels. Some are cut entirely from solid rock, featuring multiple chambers, niches, and even sophisticated ventilation systems. Walls and ceilings often bear frescoes depicting feasts, dances, hunting scenes, and mythological narratives. These images are rendered with striking detail and color, suggesting that the Etruscans understood perspective, anatomy, and movement in ways that rival later civilizations. Yet despite the clarity of these depictions, their meaning is frequently opaque. Are these scenes literal representations of daily life, idealized visions of society, or symbolic guides for the soul on its journey? The art of the tombs raises further questions. Banquet scenes, for example, are ubiquitous, with reclining figures surrounded by attendants and offerings. Scholars interpret these as reflections of social hierarchy, ritual, or the Etruscan belief in a pleasurable afterlife, yet the specifics remain elusive. Similarly, abstract symbols and inscriptions, some legible, others still undeciphered, hint at religious or ceremonial significance. Could these motifs encode secrets of cosmology, morality, or the Etruscans' understanding of life and death? And if so, how much of this knowledge has been irretrievably lost due to the erosion of time and the scarcity of surviving texts? The layout of the necropolises themselves compounds the mystery. Tombs are often arranged in clusters resembling cities, with streets, alleys, and plazas carved into stone. This urban mimicry suggests a worldview in which life and death were continuous, connected realms. What cultural or spiritual beliefs informed this design? Was it intended to guide the dead along a path mirroring that of the living, or did it serve a symbolic purpose, ensuring cosmic order in both realms? The precision and scale suggest planning, shared cultural values, and a collective vision whose full meaning remains tantalizingly out of reach. The discovery of Etruscan tombs over the past 2 centuries has yielded remarkable artifacts, jewelry, bronze mirrors, pottery, and ceremonial objects that reveal extraordinary craftsmanship and aesthetic sensibility. Yet the artifacts also pose questions. Certain objects bear imagery whose significance is not fully understood, while others suggest trade and cultural exchange with distant Mediterranean societies. How much of Etruscan culture can we reconstruct from these fragments, and how much remains forever inaccessible, hidden in the beliefs, language, and practices that left few written traces? Speculative theories extend further. Some suggest that the tombs were more than resting places. They may have functioned as spaces for ritual initiation, communal rites, or esoteric practices. Others posit that specific alignments of tomb entrances and orientations might reflect astronomical knowledge or cosmological beliefs. Could the necropolises contain encoded information about Etruscan religion, mathematics, or philosophy that has yet to be deciphered? Or were these spaces primarily pragmatic, intended to honor and protect the dead, their deeper meanings lost to time? Walking through these tombs today, one is struck by their dual nature, both intimate and monumental, personal and societal, visible and hidden. The frescoes, carvings, and objects speak across millennia, yet they do not fully reveal their secrets. They invite observation, reflection, and imagination, reminding us that some civilizations communicate not in words alone, but through enduring acts of construction, decoration, and preservation. The Etruscans created spaces that transcend time, challenging us to consider mortality, memory, and the desire to be remembered in a tangible form. The Etruscan tombs endure as silent witnesses to human ingenuity, ritual, and the quest for understanding the unknown. They demonstrate a society capable of extraordinary craftsmanship, conceptual sophistication, and spiritual imagination. Yet for all their clarity and detail, they remain partially inscrutable, leaving open the central question: what did the Etruscans truly intend to convey to the world beyond their own era? What hidden knowledge, lost practices, or symbolic truths remain sealed within these subterranean chambers, waiting for patient eyes to discover and perhaps never to be fully understood? From the stone chambers of the Etruscans, where the dead were preserved beneath painted walls and intricate carvings, we now turn our gaze eastward to a landscape of mystery and monumental scale, the Plain of Jars in northern Laos. Here, scattered across fog-laden plateaus and rolling hills, stand thousands of enormous stone jars, some taller than a human, others so massive that their construction and transport would have been formidable even by today's standards. The sight is at once arresting and unsettling. An ancient landscape transformed into a silent gallery of enigmatic forms, whispering of lives, rituals, and civilizations long vanished. The jars themselves are striking in their simplicity and scale. Carved from sandstone, granite, and conglomerate rock, they range from 1 to 3 meters in height, often with wide mouths and cylindrical or slightly ovoid bodies. They are grouped in clusters across hundreds of sites, sometimes numbering hundreds in a single location, with many arranged along ridges, valleys, or near waterways. Their placement seems deliberate, yet the logic of their arrangement remains elusive. Why were these massive containers scattered across this plateau? What purpose did they serve, and what guided the choices of location, size, and form? Dating these jars has proven challenging. Radiocarbon evidence from associated artifacts suggests that the Plain of Jars was occupied during the Iron Age, roughly between 500 BCE and 500 CE, yet many questions remain. There are no written records, no inscriptions on the jars themselves, and only limited organic material survives for analysis. Archaeologists have found human remains, ceramics, and tools nearby. Yet the jar's precise function, whether practical, ceremonial, or symbolic, remains hotly debated. Could these jars have been funerary urns, intended to house the dead before cremation or burial? Or were they part of an entirely different ritual, one whose meaning is now lost to time? Some jars show signs of careful shaping, while others appear roughly hewn, hinting at differences in labor, purpose, or chronology. Many are hollowed from solid rock, a feat requiring advanced knowledge of quarrying and carving techniques. How did ancient people manage such monumental tasks without the benefit of modern machinery? Did they employ ramps, levers, and simple machines? Or is there a method to their movement and construction that remains undiscovered? The surrounding landscape adds to the sense of enigma. Many jars are positioned on hilltops, along ridgelines, or near natural depressions, suggesting a deliberate integration with the environment. Could their placement relate to astronomical observations, territorial markers, or spiritual geographies? Some researchers speculate that the jars served as focal points for community gatherings, ritual feasts, or ancestral veneration. Others suggest a funerary function. Cremated remains and human bones have been recovered from around the jars, yet not consistently enough to definitively confirm this hypothesis. Speculative theories extend further, hinting at possibilities that blend anthropology, archaeology, and imagination. Some propose that the jars were used to ferment liquids, store food or water, or even serve as communal receptacles in complex social rituals. Others venture into more mysterious territory. Could they have been symbolic containers for the soul, or markers of sacred or energetic sites, now invisible to the untrained eye? The absence of written records allows these ideas to flourish, yet no single theory accounts for the scale, consistency, and geographic spread of the jars. The sheer number of jars amplifies the mystery. Some sites contain hundreds of these massive stones, while others are solitary, standing like sentinels across the misty plains. Moving from site to site, one notices subtle differences in size, shape, and finish, raising questions about whether the jars were produced over centuries by different cultures, or whether they represent variations in ceremonial or functional purpose. How did these societies coordinate such monumental efforts, and what social, spiritual, or political imperatives drove them to create these enduring forms? Archaeological study has been complicated by modern history. Many areas of the Plain of Jars remain dangerous due to unexploded ordnance from conflicts in the 20th century, limiting excavation and preservation. Yet, even in areas that have been carefully studied, the jars resist full explanation. They speak of human ingenuity and labor, yet they withhold the clarity of written record or the certainty of context. What motivated these ancient people to carve, transport, and arrange such immense stones across this plateau? What cultural memory, belief system, or ritual practice lay behind their creation? Walking among the jars today, one cannot escape a sense of awe and subtle unease. The silent monoliths, some worn and weathered, others surprisingly intact, dominate the horizon, hinting at a world simultaneously practical, ceremonial, and symbolic. They are at once familiar, human handiwork, and profoundly alien, challenging modern assumptions about ancient society, engineering, and ritual life. Each jar raises further questions, encouraging observation, reflection, and speculation. The Plain of Jars remains one of the great enigmas of archaeology. Despite decades of study, the full story of these monumental stones has yet to emerge. They stand as both relics of human labor and symbols of mystery, inviting us to consider how ancient peoples perceived life, death, and the world around them. What stories, rituals, or knowledge lie hidden within and among these jars? And how much remains undiscovered, buried beneath the earth, waiting for patient exploration to reveal the secrets of a vanished civilization that left behind only these silent, monumental witnesses? From the misty plateaus of Laos, where the Plain of Jars stands as a silent testament to human labor and ritual, we now journey to a stark and windswept landscape in southern Africa, where the rolling plains of the Karoo are etched not by hand of the present, but by visions of the distant past. Here, scattered across the veld, lie enigmatic arrangements of stones and earthworks, enigmatic artifacts and circular constructions collectively known as the works of the old men. Among these, two forms dominate attention: kite-shaped structures and wheel-like stone patterns, their purposes as inscrutable today as when they were first made, leaving scholars and local inhabitants alike to ponder their meaning, origin, and function. The kites are perhaps the most immediately striking. Viewed from the air, these stone formations stretch hundreds of meters, their elongated, tapering shapes converging toward a focal point, often a small enclosure or pen. From the ground, the scale is less obvious, yet the effort required to gather and align hundreds, sometimes thousands, of stones is undeniable. Why did ancient peoples take such care to construct these immense shapes, seemingly with no immediate domestic or agricultural function? What vision or knowledge drove them to shape the land in such deliberate geometric patterns, aligning stones across vast distances? Equally intriguing are the wheel-like stone circles, composed of concentric rings connected by radiating spokes, sometimes with smaller cairns or clusters at their center. Unlike the kites, these wheels are more contained, yet their geometric precision suggests planning and intent. What could these forms have represented to their builders? Were they ceremonial spaces, astronomical markers, or symbolic expressions of belief systems now lost to memory? And if so, why were they constructed in such remote and difficult-to-access locations? Dating these structures has proven challenging. Unlike more conventional archaeological sites, the works of the old men offer few organic remains for radiocarbon analysis. Estimates place their construction anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 years ago, though some scholars argue for an even older origin. The absence of contemporary written records or direct oral histories adds to the puzzle. Who were these people, and what knowledge or cultural imperatives drove them to shape the land with such precision and persistence? Archaeologists have proposed several mainstream explanations. The kites, for instance, are often interpreted as large-scale hunting traps, designed to funnel herds of antelope or other game into enclosures where hunters could dispatch them more easily. The geometric precision of the kites supports this theory, as does the discovery of nearby stone tools and animal remains. Yet questions remain. Why invest such immense labor into constructions that, if purely functional, would seem excessively elaborate? Could these structures have served multiple purposes, practical, social, and symbolic, simultaneously? The wheel-like formations are even more enigmatic. Some suggest they were ritual sites, perhaps used for ceremonies marking seasonal changes or celestial events. Others propose that they represent early astronomical observatories, tracking the movements of the sun, moon, or stars across the sky. Evidence of alignments with solstices or equinoxes has been noted at several locations, yet the data is inconclusive and the interpretation debated. Could these stone circles encode knowledge of astronomy, calendrical cycles, or even cosmology? Wisdom that has not been transmitted in any written or oral form. Speculative theories stretch further, venturing into realms of imagination and mystery. Some suggest that these structures were symbolic maps of territories, sacred sites, or social hierarchies, their forms encoding knowledge of resources, migration routes, or spiritual landscapes. Others propose that the geometric precision reflects advanced understanding of mathematics or surveying far ahead of what was previously believed possible in prehistoric southern Africa. Could the kites and wheels reflect a synthesis of practical survival, spiritual expression, and scientific observation, a kind of proto-engineering entwined with ritual and culture? The location of the works of the old men adds another layer to the mystery. Many of the kites and wheels are situated on ridges, plains, or slightly elevated terrain, often in sight lines that connect multiple structures across valleys. Was this placement intentional, perhaps for signaling, alignment, or ritual procession? And if so, what knowledge guided these choices? Astronomical, topographical, or symbolic? The labor required to move and position large stones across uneven terrain speaks to a social organization capable of sustained, cooperative effort. What motivated such coordinated endeavor, and what cultural or spiritual framework supported it? Walking among these stones today, the scale and precision evoke a quiet awe. The formations are at once naturalistic and otherworldly, human-made yet seemingly designed to integrate with the landscape itself. The winds sweep across the plains, echoing through the spokes of the stone wheels and along the converging lines of the kites, as if carrying whispers from the distant past. One can almost imagine the lives of those who labored here, the thought, ritual, and determination invested in every stone placed, every line drawn across the earth. Yet for all their clarity and form, the works of the old men resist definitive explanation. They are functional yet symbolic, practical yet mysterious, monumental yet intimate in scale. They challenge modern assumptions about the cognitive, cultural, and technological capacities of their builders. What were the intentions behind these constructions? How much knowledge, astronomical, ritualistic, or mathematical, was encoded in the arrangement of stones? And how much remains hidden, either buried beneath centuries of wind and soil or lost entirely to time? The kites and wheels endure as both artifacts and enigmas, a testament to human curiosity, ingenuity, and the desire to leave a mark on the landscape. They invite reflection, speculation, and wonder, drawing us into a dialogue across millennia. And while we may never fully understand the minds and intentions of those who built them, the silent stones continue to speak, to challenge, to inspire, and to remind us that some human mysteries, monumental and precise, persist in their quiet, enduring enigma. From the windswept plains of southern Africa, where the kites and wheels of the works of the old men stand as silent testaments to human ingenuity, our journey now shifts to the tranquil shores of Lake Orestiada in northern Greece. Here, amid reeds and gently lapping waters, archaeologists unearthed a discovery that challenges conventional understanding of prehistoric literacy, the Dispilio Tablet. This unassuming piece of wood, etched with a series of mysterious symbols, offers a tantalizing glimpse into a society capable of recording, communicating, and perhaps conceptualizing abstract thought long before the rise of writing systems as we know them. The tablet itself is small, roughly the size of a modern notebook, yet it commands attention far beyond its dimensions. Each side is covered in incised markings, lines, grooves, and symbols arranged in sequences that seem deliberate, purposeful, almost linguistic in their regularity. Though the wood has endured millennia only in part, preserved by the anoxic layers of mud and sediment along the lakeshore, the symbols remain discernible, hinting at the cognitive sophistication of the people who created them. What were they trying to convey? And why were these messages etched into a medium so perishable, only to survive by sheer accident of environment? Radiocarbon dating places the tablet at approximately 5,300 years old, making it one of the oldest known artifacts bearing potential symbolic writing in Europe. The lake settlement where it was discovered, Dispilio, was a vibrant community of wooden houses built on stilts, surrounded by palisades, with evidence of fishing, agriculture, and craft specialization. The presence of the tablet suggests that the people of Dispilio may have engaged in record-keeping, communication of ideas, or ritual practice. Yet the precise nature of the symbols remains enigmatic. Could these marks represent a proto-writing system, a ledger of goods and transactions, A mnemonic device or something entirely symbolic or ritualistic? The tablet's markings defy easy interpretation. Some scholars see patterns resembling repeated numerical sequences, while others suggest they might correspond to abstract concepts, calendrical notation, or early forms of symbolic communication. Unlike fully developed writing systems, the symbols do not map onto language in a known form, leaving open the question: were these purely practical records, expressions of abstract thought, or early attempts to impose order on a complex social and environmental world? The context of the Dispilio settlement adds further intrigue. The lakeside community demonstrates a level of social organization and technological skill that is remarkable for the period. Wooden houses, defensive structures, pottery, and tools all suggest sustained planning, cooperation, and foresight. Within this setting, the creation of a tablet bearing repeated, deliberate markings raises profound questions about cognition and culture. Did the inhabitants conceive of abstract representation as a tool for communication, memory, or ritual? And if so, how widespread was such practice across prehistoric Europe? Speculative theories push the mystery even further. Some propose that the tablet served a ritual or ceremonial function, encoding sacred knowledge or spiritual guidance. Others suggest that the symbols could represent an early form of numeric or calendrical notation, tracking seasons, resources, or trade. There are even suggestions, more controversial, that the tablet could reflect proto-writing systems that preceded known scripts, hinting at a level of sophistication far earlier than commonly accepted in European prehistory. Could the Dispilio Tablet represent a bridge between purely symbolic art and fully developed literacy, a glimpse into cognitive evolution in a time we thought too early for such complexity? The materiality of the tablet itself is noteworthy. Carved from wood, a perishable medium, it survives only because of the anaerobic conditions of the lake sediment, reminding us that countless other examples of early symbolic communication may have been lost to decay. What other artifacts, writings, or records might have existed in this or other contemporary settlements now vanished without trace? And how might our understanding of prehistoric Europe change if more examples like the Dispilio Tablet were discovered? The site of Dispilio continues to be a focal point for research, drawing archaeologists, linguists, and anthropologists into debate and investigation. Some argue for caution, noting the difficulty in interpreting a single artifact without corroborating examples. Others see the tablet as evidence that symbolic thought, proto-writing, and abstract representation emerged in multiple regions simultaneously, challenging narratives of linear cultural evolution. It raises questions about the transmission of knowledge. Were these systems localized innovations, or did ideas of symbolic representation travel across early European communities? Standing before a replication of the tablet in a museum or imagining it lying at the bottom of the lake, one senses the deliberate hand of an individual reaching across millennia. The careful incisions, the repetition, the arrangement, all suggest intention, cognition, and purpose. Yet the precise meaning, the language or concept behind the symbols, remains elusive. The tablet invites reflection on the nature of human creativity and the beginnings of communication. What does it mean to leave a message for the future, and how much of that message survives the ravages of time? The Dispilio Tablet endures as both artifact and enigma, a small carved piece of wood that challenges assumptions about prehistoric cognition, literacy, and societal complexity. It reminds us that human ingenuity often precedes written history, and that some of the earliest attempts at symbolic thought may remain hidden beneath mud, sediment, or the passage of centuries. And while we may never fully decipher its symbols, the tablet continues to speak, quietly and persistently, across the ages, inviting us to wonder what knowledge, stories, and systems of thought existed in the communities of our distant ancestors, still waiting to be discovered, still waiting to be understood. From the tranquil waters and enigmatic symbols of the Dispilio Tablet, where the echoes of prehistoric thought linger in incised lines upon wood, our journey now carries us across continents and centuries to the arid river valleys of coastal Peru. Here, amid the shifting sands and low-lying hills, lies Caral, the heart of one of the oldest known civilizations in the Americas, a society that arose in the Soup Valley over 5,000 years ago, contemporaneous with the earliest cities of Mesopotamia and Egypt. Walking among its monumental pyramids and sun-drenched plazas, one is struck not only by the scale of human ambition, but by the depth of mystery that still surrounds this remarkable culture. Caral is both sprawling and compact. Its layout includes 6 major pyramidal structures, smaller platform mounds, residential areas, and open plazas, all meticulously arranged along the valley floor. The largest pyramid towers over the site, a testament to the engineering knowledge and organizational skill of its builders. Yet what strikes the visitor most is the precision with which these structures align with one another, creating sightlines and pathways that suggest careful planning and social cohesion. How did a society without metal tools, without the wheel, and without written language conceive of urban planning on such a scale? What cultural or spiritual principles guided their architecture? And why were these monumental constructions deemed essential to the life of the city? Archaeological study reveals a civilization surprisingly sophisticated for its time. The Caral people cultivated cotton, maize, and squash, fished the nearby Pacific, and developed trade networks stretching across the Andean highlands. They produced intricate woven textiles, flutes of llama bone, and simple but elegant tools, all demonstrating technical skill and aesthetic sensibility. Yet, while their material culture is remarkable, the absence of fortifications or evidence of warfare is equally striking. Caral appears to have flourished without significant conflict, suggesting a society organized around cooperation, ritual, and shared purpose rather than conquest. Could the city's layout and monumental architecture reflect a culture deeply attuned to harmony and social cohesion, or even an early understanding of civic planning rooted in spiritual or astronomical knowledge? Central to Caral's mystery are its monumental structures. The pyramids, constructed from stones and adobe bricks, rise in geometric precision, some with internal staircases and complex substructures. Open plazas, some large enough to hold thousands, suggest communal gatherings, ceremonies, or markets, while the acoustics of certain spaces indicate an awareness of sound and ritual performance. What kinds of ceremonies took place here? Were these spaces designed to communicate with celestial bodies, to celebrate agricultural cycles, or to honor deities whose names and faces have been lost to history? Another layer of intrigue comes from the artifacts discovered within Caral. Musical instruments such as panpipes and flutes hint at ritualized sound as part of social or religious practice. Remains of quipu-like objects suggest early accounting or record-keeping, hinting at cognitive and organizational abilities that challenge our assumptions about pre-literate societies. Yet the meaning of these tools remains open to interpretation. Were they practical devices, ceremonial instruments, or symbolic objects carrying encoded knowledge? And if Caral represents the dawn of urban civilization in the Americas, what lessons, rituals, or technologies might have been transmitted to later Andean cultures, from Chavin to the Inca, leaving only traces of memory in stone, music, and architecture? Speculative theories deepen the mystery. Some suggest that Caral's monumental architecture was aligned with solstices or equinoxes, implying a sophisticated awareness of astronomy. Others propose that the pyramids and plazas encode knowledge of water management, seasonal cycles, or cosmic order. Yet, despite decades of study, many questions remain. How did a society without writing preserve and transmit knowledge across generations? Why did this civilization arise so early, in isolation from the great urban centers of the Old World, yet achieve comparable social and architectural sophistication? The silence of Caral itself is haunting. Unlike later Andean sites, it offers no inscriptions, murals, or written records. Its message is embedded in stone, earth, and human remains, leaving archaeologists to decipher the culture indirectly through material evidence and careful reconstruction of daily life. The lack of direct narrative forces us to read between the lines: the placement of a pyramid, the orientation of a plaza, the presence of ritual objects. Could these choices encode beliefs, social structures, or cosmological understanding that remain largely inaccessible to modern interpretation? Walking through Caral today, the interplay of scale, precision, and landscape evokes wonder. Sunlight spills over the low adobe walls, casting long shadows across terraces and platforms, while the surrounding desert hills frame the city in isolation. One can almost imagine the inhabitants, dressed in woven cotton, playing flutes, tending crops, and performing rituals in plazas built to honor forces larger than themselves. Yet all is silent now, the city preserved in its primeval grandeur, leaving only questions. What drove the Caral people to build, organize, and innovate on such a scale? What knowledge, social systems, or spiritual principles are encoded in these stones, waiting to be interpreted? Caral endures as both achievement and enigma, a testament to human ingenuity, adaptation, and ambition. It invites us to reflect on the origins of civilization in the Americas, the cognitive leaps required to build cities without writing or metal, and the mysteries that remain hidden beneath the sun-baked earth. And while we may never know the full story, the city continues to speak across millennia, whispering of human creativity, resilience, and the enduring quest to impose meaning on the world. What remains undiscovered in Caral's plazas, pyramids, and ceremonial spaces, and what secrets of early human society might still lie buried, waiting to be revealed? From the sun-drenched plazas and monumental pyramids of Caral, where ancient Andean hands shaped stone into cities of astonishing scale and sophistication, our journey now moves across continents and deserts to a stark, remote landscape in southern Egypt. Here, on the sands of the Nubian desert, lies Nabta Playa, a place where prehistoric people left behind a series of remarkable stone circles and megalithic structures, some of which predate the construction of Stonehenge by nearly 1,000 years. Amid this arid expanse, the earth itself becomes a canvas, carved and arranged with precision, challenging modern assumptions about early human astronomy, ritual, and communal organization. The Nabta Playa site is deceptively simple at first glance. From ground level, scattered stones, upright monoliths, and circular arrangements appear modest. Yet aerial views reveal their true significance. Carefully aligned megaliths, some forming concentric circles, others radiating outward in deliberate patterns that suggest not randomness, but intent, observation, and knowledge. These stone arrangements, some weighing several tons, were erected over 6,000 years ago by Neolithic pastoralists who managed to transform a desert basin into a landscape of remarkable cultural and astronomical significance. How did they coordinate such feats with only rudimentary tools and no written language? And what knowledge or beliefs motivated them to shape the land in such precise ways? Archaeologists have uncovered layers of occupation and ceremonial use at Nabta Playa. There are remains of stone huts, hearths, and burial pits, suggesting that these people were not merely transient herders, but a community capable of sustained social and ritual complexity. Animal bones, pottery fragments, and lithic tools indicate daily life intertwined with ritual practice, while the placement and orientation of the stone circles suggest that spiritual or cosmological concerns guided monumental construction. Were these circles merely ceremonial, or did they serve practical purposes as well, perhaps marking seasonal cycles or aiding in resource management in an unforgiving desert environment? The most famous of these formations is a stone circle sometimes called the calendar circle. Its arrangement appears to align with solstices, hinting at sophisticated astronomical knowledge. Some researchers propose that the Neolithic inhabitants tracked the movements of the sun and stars, using the stones to mark critical times for migration, planting, or ceremonial activity. If so, Nabta Playa may represent one of humanity's earliest known attempts to map the heavens onto the earth. Yet this interpretation raises further questions. How did a society without writing systems transmit such knowledge across generations? Were these alignments the product of practical observation, religious symbolism, or a combination of both? The scale and precision of Nabta Playa's megaliths also suggest a level of social organization previously unappreciated for this period. Moving and erecting stones weighing hundreds or even thousands of kilograms would have required coordination, labor specialization, and communal effort. What societal structures allowed for such coordinated action? Were leaders, shamans, or councils responsible for planning and executing these constructions? And what cultural or spiritual imperatives justified the immense labor? The desert, harsh and demanding, makes the undertaking all the more remarkable, suggesting a civilization deeply motivated by ideology, ritual, or cosmological vision. Speculative theories deepen the mystery. Some suggest that the stone circles functioned as ritual observatories designed to connect the human and celestial realms, while others propose that the arrangements encode symbolic maps of water sources, seasonal pastures, or social networks. A more enigmatic hypothesis posits that the megaliths reflect a proto-religious cosmology, a way to understand the universe, humanity's place within it, and the cyclical forces of nature. Could these stones represent knowledge lost to time, a sophisticated system of astronomy, spiritual practice, or social memory encoded in stone, waiting to be interpreted by modern observers? The burials and ceremonial pits found near the circles offer additional layers of intrigue. Some graves contain carefully arranged cattle bones, while others feature human remains in crouched positions, sometimes accompanied by artifacts that hint at ritual significance. The combination of domestic, ceremonial, and monumental evidence paints a picture of a society attuned both to the necessities of survival and to abstract thought, symbolism, and ritual. How did these people conceptualize life, death, and the cosmos? And what role did the stone circles play in mediating that understanding? Walking among the stones of Nabta Playa today, the desert wind carries an almost palpable sense of history. Sunlight casts long shadows across the concentric circles, emphasizing their geometric precision, while the surrounding basin stretches into an arid horizon, silent but for the echoes of millennia. The stones themselves, weathered yet enduring, speak to human ambition, creativity, and the desire to connect with forces larger than oneself, forces that may have been spiritual, practical, or cosmic in nature. Yet, for all their clarity of form, they withhold their full meaning, leaving us to interpret, imagine, and wonder. Nabta Playa endures as both monument and mystery, a place where the ingenuity of Neolithic peoples challenges our understanding of prehistoric societies. It reminds us that even in the most inhospitable landscapes, humans sought to observe, measure, and ritualize their world. And while the full story of the stone circles remains elusive, they invite reflection on the ingenuity, curiosity, and vision of early civilizations. What knowledge, beliefs, and systems of observation might still lie buried in the sands of Nabta Playa, and how many other landscapes, now silent and unexcavated, may conceal similarly astonishing evidence of humanity's earliest quests to understand the heavens and the earth? From the sun-baked sands of Nabta Playa, where prehistoric humans aligned stones with the movements of the heavens, we journey now to the high plains of the Andes, to the windswept Altiplano of Bolivia. Here lies the ancient city of Tiwanaku, one of the most enigmatic and sophisticated civilizations of pre-Columbian South America. At the heart of this sprawling settlement stands a monument that continues to captivate archaeologists, historians, and visitors alike, the Gateway of the Sun. A single monolithic portal, carved from a massive block of stone, it embodies both artistry and enigma, a silent witness to the ingenuity and cosmological knowledge of a vanished people. The Gateway of the Sun is immediately arresting. Standing over 3 meters tall, its horizontal lintel spans nearly 4 meters, carved from a single block of andesite. Across its surface are intricate bas-reliefs depicting a figure, often referred to as the staff god, flanked by arrays of smaller figures and symbols, repeated with geometric precision. The motifs are mesmerizing: stylized wings, radiating rays, and abstract anthropomorphic forms that suggest movement, hierarchy, and cosmic order. Who was this figure intended to represent? A deity? A cosmic principle? Or a reflection of human authority intertwined with spiritual power? Tiwanaku itself, situated at over 3,800 meters above sea level, is a city of monumental architecture, precise stonework, and carefully planned ceremonial spaces. The Gateway of the Sun is not an isolated artifact, but part of a broader complex that includes the Akapana Pyramid, Kalasasaya Temple, and Pumapunku, sites that collectively reveal a civilization with extraordinary skill in engineering, astronomy, and urban planning. Yet the exact purpose of the gateway remains elusive. Was it a ceremonial portal, a calendrical device, or a symbolic threshold between the human and the divine? The alignment of the gateway with solar events suggests a sophisticated understanding of the sun's annual path, yet the full extent of its astronomical significance continues to be debated. The carved figure at the center, staff god, exudes authority and mystery. Clutching twin staffs surrounded by radiating rays and attendant figures, it seems to dominate both space and imagination. Scholars suggest that the figure may represent a solar deity, a god of fertility, or a personification of cosmic order. Yet its symbolism is multi-layered. Some believe the repeated motifs along the arch may encode calendars, agricultural cycles, or astrological knowledge, while others see in them a purely spiritual or ritual significance, a visual language of divine authority whose grammar is now lost. How did the people of Tiwanaku interpret these symbols in daily life, ceremony, and governance? The engineering of the gateway itself is remarkable. The monolith was quarried, transported, and carved with precision in a landscape devoid of metal tools capable of cutting and shaping such stone. How did the Tiwanaku people achieve such feats of alignment and carving with limited technology? What methods allowed them to move, lift, and position a single block weighing several tons, and what knowledge of geometry and mechanics underpinned their work? These questions underscore a broader enigma: the intersection of human ingenuity, spiritual vision, and environmental mastery that defines Tiwanaku. Speculative theories invite even deeper reflection. Some researchers propose that the gateway and its carvings functioned as a type of astronomical calendar, tracking solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycles. Others suggest that the iconography encodes ritual knowledge, mythological narratives, or even a symbolic map of the heavens, a means of connecting human activity with cosmic forces. A more controversial hypothesis posits that the precise alignment and intricate carvings hint at knowledge of advanced mathematics, astronomy, and cosmology, possibly inherited or transmitted across generations in ways not fully understood today. Could the Gateway of the Sun represent both a ceremonial threshold and an instrument of celestial observation, a dual-purpose monument that transcends modern categorization? The broader Tiwanaku complex amplifies the mystery. Nearby structures such as Pumapunku display architectural precision, interlocking stones, and techniques that continue to baffle modern engineers. The relationship between these sites and the Gateway of the Sun suggests a unified vision, a city conceived not merely for habitation, but for ritual, observation, and the embodiment of spiritual and cosmic principles. How did the Tiwanaku coordinate such monumental efforts across generations, and what cultural or religious framework informed their conception of space, stone, and symbol? Standing before the gateway today, one is struck by its presence, the silence of the high-altitude plains, and the meticulous detail carved into stone thousands of years ago. The interplay of form, scale, and symbolism evokes awe and curiosity. The monolith seems to transcend its materiality, offering a window into a society where art, spirituality, and astronomy intersected with precision and purpose. And yet, for all its clarity, the monument withholds its full meaning. The symbols, the alignments, and the figure of staff god remain enigmatic, inviting speculation, reflection, and discovery. The Gateway of the Sun endures as both achievement and enigma, a testament to Tiwanaku's sophistication and the enduring human impulse to connect with the cosmos. It reminds us that the ancient world was populated by societies capable of remarkable technical and conceptual feats, whose knowledge and vision survive only in stone and symbol. What messages, knowledge, or ritual significance might remain hidden within its carvings, and how much of Tiwanaku's wisdom has already been lost to time? The monument persists, silent yet eloquent, inviting us to contemplate not only what we can see, but what we cannot fully understand. From the soaring heights of the Andean Altiplano, where the Tiwanaku Gateway of the Sun casts its silent monumental gaze upon a vanished civilization, we turn now to the sun-drenched hills of Mycenae, in the Peloponnese of Greece. Here, beneath layers of earth and history, lies a small yet profoundly evocative artifact that has captivated archaeologists, historians, and mythologists alike: the Mask of Agamemnon. A thin sheet of gold, molded into the visage of a man, it speaks of death, ritual, and memory, capturing in its delicate form a civilization's reverence for the dead and the mysteries of life beyond. The mask is startling in its realism. Fine incisions trace the contours of eyes, nose, and mouth. Subtle depressions suggest the hollows of cheeks and the lines of age. It is at once human and idealized, an impression of a face meant to endure through eternity. Found over a century ago by the archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann in the shaft graves of Grave Circle A, it was immediately identified as belonging to a figure of immense importance, Agamemnon, the legendary king of Mycenae, though modern scholarship has cast doubt on this identification. Yet, whether mythic or historical, the mask embodies the intersection of human artistry, ritual practice, and the desire to preserve identity beyond death. The context of the mask's discovery deepens its mystery. Buried in shaft graves alongside other gold funerary masks, weapons, and treasures, it belonged to a society that flourished during the Late Bronze Age, around 1600 to 1500 BCE. The Mycenaeans were formidable builders, warriors, and traders, whose influence stretched across the Aegean. But why craft a mask from gold for the dead? Was it a marker of status, a protective talisman for the afterlife, or a conduit to the divine? And how did a civilization so skilled in architecture and warfare conceive of such intimate artistry for a human face? Scholars have debated the mask's significance for decades. Some see it as purely ceremonial, a funerary object meant to honor and immortalize elite individuals. Others suggest it served as a spiritual intermediary, a way for the dead to maintain presence and authority within the living community. The very choice of gold, soft yet enduring, speaks to symbolism as much as practicality, a material that resists decay, shining long after flesh has returned to earth. Yet questions remain. Why were some graves adorned with such masks while others were not? And what social, political, or religious criteria determined the allocation of these extraordinary objects? The mask's face itself invites contemplation. Though Schliemann named it after Agamemnon, there is no evidence to link it to the Homeric figure. Its features, deep-set eyes, solemn mouth, strong nose, suggest not myth but individuality, a reflection of a real person whose name has been lost. Could it represent a king, a warrior, or a priest? And if so, what does its artistry reveal about Mycenaean ideas of identity, power, and mortality? How did the mask's maker capture a likeness so vividly, translating a living face into metal with such delicacy? Speculative interpretations extend further. Some researchers suggest that the mask, and others like it, may reflect early notions of ancestor worship, a means of maintaining lineage and memory through material culture. Others propose that it could be part of a ritual performance, its wearer, or its presence in the grave, serving as a focal point for ceremonies that reinforced social cohesion or divine sanction. There are even fringe hypotheses, proposing that the masks encode symbolic or astronomical knowledge, though evidence for such claims remains inconclusive. Could these golden faces have functioned simultaneously as portrait, talisman, and cosmic symbol, bridging the worlds of life, death, and divine order? The Mask of Agamemnon is also a window into the technical mastery of the Mycenaeans. Crafted from a single thin sheet of gold, it demonstrates not only artistry, but metallurgical skill. How did the artisans achieve such precision, capturing lifelike details while working with a material as delicate as gold? And what does this craftsmanship reveal about the social and technological sophistication of a society otherwise known for monumental architecture and fortified citadels? Each tiny incision in the metal speaks of knowledge, patience, and an intimate understanding of both human anatomy and the symbolic power of materials. Standing before a reproduction of the mask today, one is struck by its quiet immediacy. Unlike massive pyramids or towering gateways, it is human in scale, yet its presence is monumental in effect. The face gazes out across millennia, silent yet potent, inviting reflection on mortality, memory, and the human impulse to preserve identity beyond the grave. What stories does it hold? What beliefs, fears, or hopes were etched into its features by the hand that made it? And how much of Mycenaean culture, the rituals, hierarchies, and spiritual understanding, remains hidden behind this small golden visage? The Mask of Agamemnon endures as both art and enigma, a testament to the Mycenaeans' technical skill, ritual sophistication, and desire to transcend mortality. It reminds us that even in societies long vanished, humans grappled with the same questions that preoccupy us today: who we are, how we are remembered, and what traces of ourselves we leave behind. And while the precise identity, purpose, and meaning of the mask remain elusive, it continues to speak across centuries, urging us to look closer, question deeper, and wonder what secrets of the ancient world still lie buried beneath the earth. From the quiet, golden visage of the Mask of Agamemnon, which whispers across millennia of human mortality, we now turn to a landscape carved not by hands of metal or the chisels of a single artisan, but by forces or technologies still deeply mysterious. Across the Mediterranean Sea, on the rugged islands of Malta, lie the enigmatic cart routes, parallel grooves etched deeply into the bedrock, some extending for kilometers, their origins and purpose confounding archaeologists for centuries. Beneath the glare of the Mediterranean sun, the ruts weave across cliffs, valleys, and fields, leaving an enduring puzzle. Who made them, and why? At first glance, the ruts resemble the tracks of ancient vehicles, their parallel lines consistent, seemingly deliberate. Yet a closer examination raises immediate questions. The grooves vary in depth, width, and spacing, sometimes diverging across uneven terrain or cutting into rock so hard that carving them would have required extraordinary effort. They intersect gullies, rise over hills, and in places vanish abruptly, as though responding to forces beyond mere transportation needs. Were these truly the tracks of wheeled carts, or did they serve some other, unknown purpose, perhaps ritualistic, symbolic, or even astronomical? Archaeological studies suggest that some ruts may date back over 3,000 years, possibly to the Bronze Age or earlier. Malta during this period was home to advanced megalithic cultures, builders of temples such as Hagar-Chim and Menasdra, whose monumental structures demonstrate remarkable sophistication in construction, alignment, and ceremonial design. Yet unlike these temples, the cart ruts offer no inscriptions, no accompanying artifacts, and no clear contextual evidence. The ruts exist in isolation, etched into the landscape itself, a monumental message without words. Could they have functioned as transportation routes, pathways for moving heavy stone, or conduits for ceremonial processions? Or were they a form of early surveying, mapping, or symbolic landscape design, marking invisible boundaries, sacred spaces, or cosmological alignments? One of the most confounding aspects of the ruts is their topography. In some places, the tracks ascend steep cliffs or descend to the edge of the sea, continuing along ledges that seem impractical, if not impossible, for ordinary carts. This has led some researchers to propose that the grooves were not used for wheels at all, but perhaps served as guides for sledges, timber transport, or other yet undetermined technologies. Others suggest ritualistic interpretation, that the ruts' paths were part of ceremonial movements across the landscape, integrating natural features, sacred temples, and observation points into a coordinated network. Experimental archaeology has attempted to replicate the ruts using wooden carts or sledges, yet results are inconclusive. Some researchers argue that the bedrock is too hard, the tracks too deep, and the patterns too erratic to be explained by ordinary transportation methods. Others maintain that over centuries, erosion, quarrying, and reuse could have modified the original tracks, complicating interpretation. Could these grooves be the cumulative result of ritualized activity over generations, slowly deepened by repeated use? Or do they represent a lost technology or understanding of material movement, one that modern science cannot fully reconstruct? Speculative theories abound. Some have suggested that the ruts may align with celestial bodies, echoing the kind of astronomical consciousness seen at other megalithic sites, hinting at a deliberate integration of landscape and sky. Others posit that the ruts could have served as channels for water or ceremonial offerings, though their discontinuities and unpredictable paths challenge such explanations. Fringe interpretations have even proposed more extraordinary possibilities, from unknown vehicles to connections with advanced or forgotten technologies, though evidence remains scant. The ruts' persistence, however, commands attention. Whatever their origin, they reveal a society capable of shaping the landscape with vision, effort, and intent. The Maltese islands themselves deepen the intrigue. Dotted with megalithic temples, burial sites, and ancient stone circles, they suggest a culture attuned to ritual, cosmology, and monumentality. The cart ruts, in this context, may represent another facet of human engagement with the land, a system of movement, observation, or symbolism integrated with a broader spiritual or practical landscape. Yet their full purpose eludes understanding, leaving them suspended between function and mystery. How did the ancient Maltese coordinate these grooves across hills, valleys, and rocky outcrops? What knowledge or tradition guided their creation, and why did the practice cease, leaving behind an enduring enigma? Walking along the ruts today, one senses their age and strangeness. Sunlight glances off eroded rock, emphasizing the depth and precision of the grooves, while the surrounding fields, cliffs, and temples bear witness to millennia of human endeavor. Each line seems deliberate, yet its meaning is lost, like a sentence whose language has vanished. The ruts provoke reflection on human ingenuity and the ways in which ancient societies shaped their environment to meet spiritual, practical, or unknown needs. They challenge our assumptions about what prehistoric peoples could achieve and how they conceptualized their interaction with the landscape. The cart ruts of Malta endure as a testament to human creativity, ambition, and mystery. They remind us that some of the most profound human achievements are not grand temples or monumental statues, but subtle manipulations of the landscape, etched in ways that continue to perplex and inspire. And while we may never fully decode their purpose, the ruts remain, silent and persistent, inviting us to wonder, what knowledge, rituals, or technologies of Malta's ancient inhabitants are hidden beneath the rock? And how many other traces of human ingenuity obscured by time and terrain await discovery across the earth?